permit. This part looks pretty good.
Okay, we're going to start the meeting.
Yeah.
Please stand for the pledge.
Okay.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with the public portion. Gary Cobb.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I want to start by thanking Jim and Rick for this hosting you've been doing for the deep water information gathering mission. I'm here hopefully to help you guys with that. I don't have a lot of opportunity to make those meetings, but I could make this one. And I do have some information for you. I know you've complained you haven't had a lot of as much fisherman interaction as you would like. So I've taken it upon myself. I've surveyed the fishing crews that are working still on the ocean side, not all the ones that are on the bay side, but the ones that are on the ocean side, so that you have an idea of their position as far as the landing of the cable goes. It's approximately 30 men in total, even though it's a couple of crews. Their helpers switch in and out, fill in their tags when they can. When their tags are filled, then they bring in another guy. But we're talking about approximately 30 men. Round numbers, we could get harder numbers if you need them. At 250 tags apiece, they're catching 7,500 fish. Fish are averaging about 15 pounds. This is strictly striped bass. You're talking about a little over 100,000 pounds of fish, market value $3 to $4 per pound. So you're talking about a little bit shy of $500,000 worth of fish split up among those 30 fishermen. They don't all have equal shares. The owners of the gear have a bigger share than the helpers. It is a pretty big portion of their income. It's important to them. So what I proposed to them was, it appears that the cable landing is directed at the South Shore now and has been removed from the estuary. That removes the trap fishermen. Most of the guys that are on the Fisheries Advisory Committee, there aren't, I believe, any Southside fishermen on the Fisheries Advisory Committee that I know of. So I proposed if you had 6 landings to choose from along the south side from Hither Hills to Georgia, which one would you pick? Which would be the least of an impact to what you guys do?
They're actually going further than Georgia.
Yeah, Bill just filled me in on that. I wasn't aware, but as far as the ones we knew about anyway, and regardless, which ones, and the answer was, it really wouldn't matter if there was 10 or 12. They said, which one of your kids would you want to give up? As far as they're concerned, because as you all know, fishing is dynamic and it changes every season. One season you'll catch, the same reason they have a dozen traps on the north side. They make a set at Nat Peak Lane one day and they make a set at Georgia another day. So, but all that being said, I said, so you can't pick one. And they said, no, we couldn't. It was mixed. I actually asked them to vote, and we came up with, would it be, half of them said over here and the other half said over this way. And I said, okay, well, we need a general consensus here. The general consensus was that they're asking that the trustees say no to any landing on land that trustees have jurisdiction on. So if it comes into Hither Hills State Park, if it comes into the federal land, if it comes in, they'll deal with it. But they said, as far as, I tried to lean them to, I said, well, Georgia's a little far on the other side of town. Most of your launches come out of Amagansett and markets are to Montauk and Amagansett. We talked about it a lot. This wasn't just pulled out of the air. And they said no. Their feeling is not on trustee land. So if it comes ashore in Hither Hills or it comes ashore, if it comes ashore up in the village under land that it turns out the trustees don't have jurisdiction on, this is just the position of the guys that are going to be affected. Because Bonnie's people, the offshore boats, it's a different issue. You're still going to have a cable running parallel to the beach. You're still going to have structures mounted. This purely is the Bayman, and I'm here to represent the Bayman. They ask, I'm speaking for them, and that's their take on it, not on trustee land.
Okay. Well, we'll take that under consideration. Thanks, Gary, for doing the homework.
Thank you very
Yeah, I know you had the harbor management meeting. It might have been a better place to discuss it.
No,
We're concerned that, the other question I would have is there a tentative date where Deepwater Wind is going to ask for or propose to you guys before, I know first quarter 2018, they're going to come up with a project plan. It's got to be submitted. It's got to include a landing. Have they given you guys a date as to when they want your input by?
Well, it would be before the end of this year, but we need to have the two meetings that I mentioned to you
Yes.
earlier. One will be on November 1st.
Yes, and one in
And
December.
one will be on December. Until all of the information from them has been provided as they have represented,
Yes.
we don't have a complete picture.
Correct.
So I think it would be inappropriate for them to request
So
anything
they
from
have
us.
not yet, but you're saying that by the end of 2017? Or could it be in
Yeah.
20? So by December 31st, you're supposed to, whatever they propose, give them your position?
I think that's our process. The objective was to get it done this year.
Okay. I don't think I have anything else. I just wanted to bring that here. Nope, that's it.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thanks for
Gary.
coming, Gary, and representing the Bayman. Thanks.
Thank you.
Speaking for them.
All right, Jim Walker?
I don't know how much of a presentation you want. It's Devon Yacht Club. We're here for maintenance dredging permits for this year. The dredging wasn't done last year. The water was deep enough. They never had to do it. I have an easel to set up if you want to see. Want me to set up the easel?
Sure.
Can't hurt.
The dredging wasn't done last year because they didn't need it. It's the first time since 1985 that it wasn't done. I've been working for Devon Yacht Club since 1984. 1985, it wasn't done, and I got yelled at. So after that, made sure the permits were issued every year. And last season, they did 2 surveys, and they didn't need the dredging. So the surveys were submitted to the trustees. They are surveys of just the boat basin and the inlet jetties. But I spoke to the trustees briefly last few days. Dredging is 1,200 cubic yards, sand placed here. And I guess there's some interest in trustees being able to use that sand for projects down the beach. So I will speak to Pal Holman, the general manager at the Devon Yacht Club, and ask her if that's okay. There was site inspection by Diane last year, and they were moving sand from here. We do that every year, but now that Diane found out about that, which I never knew anything about, we went to the zoning board of appeals, got a natural resources special permit to move that sand from here to there. So that's what we intend to do. The deal with sand there is it builds up against the fixed pier, and they stop the sand from going over top the dock and clean it off so that people aren't confused and drive four-wheel drives over top of the dock. But that sand just goes from here to here.
Jim, how do they do that across the channel? How do they get it from there to there?
Load it in trucks.
And drive all the way around?
From here to there?
Yeah?
Yeah, that's a small
Okay.
amount of sand.
But I'm just gonna clarify that what I saw was not picking up and trucking sand around. They were pushing it into the water. They were taking the
I
dune
saw
and
that too last
pushing
year,
it
yeah.
I
into the
didn't
water.
see it, but I believe it.
Yeah.
They've been told the natural resources special permit reads that they have to pick it up and go there. So I think that that's a good solution, that's a good thing, to get sand from over here to there, where this is the depleted beach, and that's the beach that's always building up
Jim, is that the littoral drift, how the sand gets?
this way.
Yeah, this way it goes that way.
You can see that here, right, it's the jetties, it goes up here, and then on a bad year, it overwashes it right here.
Right.
And then they come in, Pat, this year always does it lately. He has a long reach excavator, and pulls the material out from there. That's the whole deal.
But that second permit that they just got looks like it's outside their boundary line on the beach. So they have a natural resources permit. Do they have a trustee permit or a DEC permit?
No,
Moving that sand?
we have a DEC permit.
DEC permit?
We have an Army Corps permit. We have a Department of State permit, and we have a Natural Resources permit.
You think it falls
We're
within
here to
trustee
ask-
jurisdiction
We're here
too?
to ask the trustees for a permit. That'll be our 5th permit for this stuff. And it's gonna be chronic, so we'll be back to see you every single year to remove sand from here and here. And remove this, except for last season, which we didn't have to do, but pick up this sand over there. And that's it.
Long reach excavator they're using to dredge?
Pat has a new piece of equipment.
Okay. You may have said that, I just.
The same piece of equipment that he uses at Clearwater.
Which may have been what he used at Acrobatic.
What's that?
Oh, it's the extra long one, that one that has like two.
The one that
feet on
reached
the
out
lawn.
into Acrobatic and
Long one
Yeah.
with the big
recently did that.
Glorified backhoe.
You got it. Yeah,
So that's it.
okay.
What, are you waiting for an answer?
No,
I'm just,
probably go home now.
Yeah,
okay,
Jim,
who-
do you have
who's,
a new
who's in,
application?
who's down that way?
on
You
the
are.
side there for moving that sand.
No, but we can amend it, so.
Okay, if you can amend it, we'll try and vote on it
I think
next
that's
meeting.
fine.
Yeah,
What are we amending? I missed it. I'm
you can amend the permit to include that sand, the sand you were talking about, to the, on the trustee permit.
They probably did it every year since 1985. We'll amend the permit, and that way you'll have to pick it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great,
Great,
that's
thanks,
constant work when you have
Thank
to
you,
fix.
Jim.
Bruce Haworth?
Good evening. I'm here to follow up on a couple of meetings I've had with a subcommittee of the trustees where we've been discussing ways to standardize and sort of regularize the Phragmites control permits so that it more closely coordinates with the seasonality of the work that's being done. So, for example, we don't want a permit to expire in July when we know that there was possibly some cutting that was done in June, and there's more that's needed before the growing season ends. So it made sense to try to bring them all into a similar schedule. And I think Rick, at this point, has taken the notes that we put together and the thoughts and has put it in the form of a resolution. So if I turn it over to Rick, I'll stay around for questions, but basically, it's Rick's show.
Thank you, Bruce. Yeah, as Bruce mentioned, Jim, Brian, and I, and Bruce have been reviewing the Phragmites permit process and associated procedures. And, Jim has had a lot of input on this in terms of the growing and cutting season. And, we came up with a basic guideline where the Ponds Committee would recommend that all of the trustee Phragmites removal permits will renew annually on November 30th or thereabouts. And they would be subject to particular trustee rules and conditions, such that a new completed trustee Phragmites project application would be submitted by November 15th of the renewal year for each project. And the application will denote that it is a renewal. A project update document would be submitted with each Phragmites project renewal application. Each project update would have 2 chapters. The first section will consist of project photography that depicts the activities of the past growing and cutting season on the subject property and the current status of the project. The second section would consist of a project narrative supporting the project photography And these two sections would evolve as the project continues each year and in effect create more of a project portfolio. So we think that would be an appropriate way. And then each project would be subject to a trustee ponds or harbors committee site visit. We do have one project over on Hog Creek, so that would be a harbors committee review. And all the site visits would have to be completed by the 30th of, the renewal period. And, if any of these criteria are not met, then the work would have to cease and the applicant would have to address any concerns and reapproach. So there is a draft resolution that everyone received tonight for review, and we feel this will really standardize the Phragmites removal process. It'll be well documented, and certain benefits, like the traditional fall letting, would have the pond at a low level at the time you would do the site visits, so you can really get a good look at the project. And we can organize visiting multiple projects in the course of a few days instead of having them scattered about over the course of the whole year. Everyone's busy in the summer, the pond may be high. So I think there's a lot of value to going in this direction. Jim, would you care to?
No, I've read it,
articulate?
and I saw the various iterations of this, and I think what you've got here I would support.
Okay. Does anyone else on the board have any questions or comments?
If somebody comes in the middle of the summer for a permit, is that permit going to have to be renewed by November 15th?
I think that's the
Yeah.
best way to
I
proceed.
think the only, Francis, I think the only way to do it is maybe we give people a choice.
Mm-hmm.
You can commence in November, or you can do a short-term permit
Mm-hmm.
that'll renew in November. The reason we're doing this is, Bruce brought it to our attention that it's a little unfair, especially in a year like we had this year, where the pond levels were high throughout most of the season. A lot of the cutting on some of these properties never occurred, okay? So we're coming up on renewals and we're visiting properties and literally nothing's been done. And it's not due to any negligence on the part of the applicant, it's just due to the site conditions in the season. And we thought it would be more fair to Bruce and actually more convenient for our board to review these things in November. We'd see them at the end of a growing season. We'd have some documentation throughout the season, and it would be a good time to evaluate these things, so.
It sounds like a good idea. Sounds
Yeah.
good. Sounds like it's efficient use of everybody's time.
Well, yeah, because we have, what it is we have a lot of these permits running right now. And when you're looking at them, Lori, in terms of tracking when permits run out in the course of a season, Bruce might have a permit that's running out in July, he might have another one that's running out in the middle of July, and so on. It sort of,
The timing of the meetings may not coincide, so
Yeah.
it can get a little tricky.
If we were to go forward with it, I'd like to see if we could get the Georgia Pond Association on board to let the folks know what this new process would be, so that would make it that much more effective.
well, we would be, I think, be sending a letter
Yeah.
to all of the current permit holders, advising that this is the new policy and procedure, and/or their agents. The bottom line is, most of these applications are being officiated by a very small group of people, so it's not a real long list here.
The part I like about this is the two-phase section of the
Project update document.
yeah, the project update, sorry, yeah. Getting the photographic evidence to kind of keep track of each project and see how it goes along, kind of develop a portfolio for each project, seems like a really
Yeah,
good
Bruce
way
has
to
done some nice work in the past with
make it
the
more
projects.
robust, so we get a
Yeah,
better
it's a nice
understanding
way
too
to
of,
proceed. Yeah, then you have a
Yeah.
nice chronological.
you can see
history.
trends in different areas that way over time, and
Yeah.
I like it, it's a really good.
It's good.
I can just see some logistical difficulties with the number of applications that might be submitted between November 15th and November 30th. Again, depending upon the meeting schedule, there's holiday in November, that you could be cutting your time a little short for actual thorough review of the chapters that they might submit,
Is there a reason we
Well,
didn't pick November 1st?
Diane, the reality is, these projects, once they're permitted, the reality here, it's pretty simple. We've either cut the Phragmites or we haven't cut the Phragmites. We've either cut the Phragmites in the area that the permit describes, or we haven't, or we're somewhere else. I think the review on our end here is probably, it takes minutes, okay? The real legwork is done by the Ponds Committee, and, you know, we have and we continue to make time for Bruce to go through.
Can I ask a
these
question
things.
about Diane, because I think that you're raising a point which may actually handicap the process. If we were limited, if it's actually written in the resolution that it has to be finalized by the trustees by November 30th, that would be unnecessarily restricting us. Why don't you put the burden on me to make sure I have all the paperwork to you by the 30th? And then if you decide anytime between then and the next several months, we're fine in terms of the, you know, biology of when the cutting starts again. It gives you a little lead time in case there's some problem where you need to get more information and it still would allow this process.
In terms of the site visits being completed?
Well, I would have everything to you in times that you could do the site visit, but let's just say for some reason, 10 of them seem fine, and there's another one that you need additional information. Maybe some of the replanting wasn't done the way you want it. You need a new plan or whatever on part of it. We want to make sure that we don't have to just sort of exclude that one and have it be running its own course, whereas the other 10 are already on a path just because it exceeded a November deadline.
Well, it's just that we want the site visits to be completed
yeah.
by then. That was
That shouldn't be
the
an issue.
only hard criteria, was that we want to make sure we're out there in a timely manner coinciding with the end of the growing and cutting season. We don't want to wait till spring to do
Okay,
the site
right,
visit.
right.
In terms of working through any issues that might exist, I think we do have some leeway based on the seasonality of the natural process.
There's nothing happening after the
Right.
end of November.
So
But isn't
let me
that-
just ask another logistical question on, a follow-up if I can on that, and that is if you'll have a permit, of course, at this point, there's around 15 to 20, so they all have different stop dates. So we'll have a permit that that may be active, which is going to now get brought into a schedule that's going to be regularized in the dates that we're talking about. We have some projects that, for example, may have ended a month or even a week before the 30th. In those cases, can you use the same mechanism? I don't really care what it is, but are you going to be okay in terms of using a mechanism that you call it either a renewal or a modification or a new permit that's going to make sure it legally is going to be valid?
Well, we'd like to do that, Bruce. What we'd like to do is try and get all of your permits in line so that they renew this year on the 30th. And if we have to have some specific language or a document from Rick that permits some cutting in this interim period of the next 40 days or so, I would think we would want to do that. And then going forward, they would be annualized with a 12/1 start to an 11/30 finish. So
Yeah.
this is our cleanup effort. So this
Right.
is a unique one-time situation to get everything in line.
I'm with you on that. I guess what I'm wondering is, let's just say that a permit expired in September of 2017. In November, when you're looking at that, is that going to be renewed? Is that going to be modified, amended, or is that going to be are you going to issue a new application at that point?
The thought process thus far has been that it's a renewal, and it will run from 12/1 to 11/30 of the following year.
You're being given an extension.
I am.
this
I
year.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, so stop looking at gift horses.
Okay, so just to be clear about this, on the renewals, they will bypass the full board approval and only be approved by the committees.
I don't agree
No.
with that.
That's what
I know.
I'm not seeing anything
No,
about
we're doing the
coming.
legwork here. We're
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
the site visits.
The board would vote on it.
Yeah.
We would interact with Bruce to make sure that the project updates are submitted in a timely manner, that we've coordinated and done, let's say, a caravan trip around the pond, visiting all of Bruce's properties in an efficient manner by the 30th. And then we would provide a report back to the board.
Okay,
Same as we do now.
yeah.
You know, the individual board members haven't gone out and visited projects. If they have, they've done it on their own time, and it shouldn't be a necessary part of this process.
Could these site visits be done before the 15th, or is it kind of between the 15th and 30th is the window for any given trustee to go make these site
I
visits?
think it's the month of November.
Yeah, usually
Okay.
Probably the month of November.
I mean, but let's say you visit a
That
site
gives us enough
and you
time
kind
to-
of wasted your time because they didn't renew the project or something. I mean, that's a possibility
Well,
then,
the
right?
idea is to coordinate with Bruce, so we can say, Bruce, look, can we line up 6 or 8 properties today?
Yeah, that'd be nice.
and
Yeah.
Get them.
I am worried with, like Diane said, about it being near Thanksgiving, having traveling, you know, a lot like that. Like, let's say a member of the board
Yeah,
who
but-
was going to go make a site
You know,
visit.
if it was a couple hundred
We already-
projects, I would
Aren't
share
most
that
of these all
concern.
projects that roll over year after year?
Well, some of them are. Some of them are first-year projects. We were really anxious to see how that first year went. But as was mentioned earlier, we're just looking to get the site visits in and the paperwork in by November 30th.
And having
If
several
the-
committee
If
people.
it drags into December for the votes,
Yeah.
it's a moot issue, really.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we do that now, where if I'm
There's
away. or-
nothing here to stop any other trustee from going down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Observing
It's
it.
important that the
Two of
board
the
weigh in,
three.
so the board has the final say, of course.
Yeah, we should definitely bring it to a meeting and vote there.
It's a board-level
Well, that's the way
issue,
that's the way it's been done.
Okay.
No, I see,
as with
no,
all other
I understand that.
permits.
Okay.
So that doesn't change, and if.
just making sure we're not
that
going to
was
get caught, you
clear,
know, not being
I'd
able to
like
make the
make
site
that clear
visits
now.
in a timely manner if we only have
Is there-
15 days to do so.
Sorry.
No, that was all I had to say, was that 15 days isn't that long to make site visits when you have maybe Thanksgiving, things
Yeah.
happening
No,
at the
but
same
I think it would be
time.
more like 30 days, you know.
Okay, like the
We would-
1st to the
yeah.
30th or
I
something.
mean, we are kind of looking and touching and reviewing these projects on an ongoing basis. And as we get into fall, we're going to be communicating with Bruce and Jim and, you know, getting them going. And hoping to set a standard even for future board members so that they'll have a guidance document to follow.
Yeah,
To
it's a
continue the
good
good work.
standardization.
Is there a seasonality to when the work is done?
Well,
The actual work and the, the cutting?
yeah, if they're projects that just involve cutting, yeah, then you're talking about growing season, basically from April to end of October, somewhere in that period. If there are different types of control, for example, excavation, it may not be relevant.
So excavation could be occurring in November, or for that matter, in December.
Right.
Well, I would, one thing I would suggest is whatever you decide to do, because I know in the past, sometimes trustee rules and regulations, they're sort of floating around in the ether. First of all, have them accessible to the public, meaning I would recommend that they be accessible on the website, on your website. I mean, it's your version of the town code. You know, your rules and regulations are your guiding documents. They're essentially the law until you amend it as far as the trustees go. So I do know it hasn't always been easy in the past to know what the rules, trustee rules are. So I would put them on your website.
Definitely. And this is, you know, perhaps a start towards,
You know, but a lot of other people
you know,
don't.
this is a start towards more of a procedures handbook where we can start to maybe standardize some other
Yeah.
areas of trustee purview as well.
Yeah.
So that's a great idea to make it public. Definitely
Yeah,
go on the
you-
website and be available in the trustee office.
Eventually, you should have, I mean, I don't know exactly what you have right now. I'm not aware of an actual book of rules and regulations, but you need something like that.
Yeah, so this is a step in that direction, Rick, so we definitely would like to confer with you on it further.
Yeah, it's something we've had on our horizons for, I think, the whole time we've existed as the current board, and been working towards it ever since, so.
So,
Want to offer it up?
And there's no need for this to differentiate between
No,
hand cutting operations
Yeah, I'd
and
like a little
digging,
more
right?
time to roll it over and work on some of this verbiage a little bit, because it shouldn't be I don't think it should be a resolution that's coming from the Ponds Committee for a policy change. It should be something that we've worked out, we understand as a board, the trustees, you know, whereas the trustees have determined A, B, C, D, this is a policy we will continue.
I mean, it certainly
Yeah.
could come forth from the board, I don't have a
Yeah.
problem with that. You know, I would like to see us move in this direction, and we do have a lot of projects that are,
Well, I think, I mean, I have
Underway.
no problem tabling this till the next meeting, but I would like to see it completed by then.
okay. Yeah, you know, Diane, if we need to get together with the Ponds Committee members, if you'd like to have some input, why don't we, you know, try and get together before the next meeting and get everything ironed out.
Yeah, that's only fair.
Yeah, it's good to adopt
Yeah.
new policies in a timely
It's,
manner.
it looks doable, and now we have a couple of weeks to take a look at it, chew on it, and revisit it at our next meeting. Okay, good.
You okay with that, Jim?
Yeah.
So Jim, do you see any need for this to differentiate between hand digging or excavation kind of stuff and just cutting?
No.
I mean, this is just, because this is all Phragmites removal, which would incorporate, encompass a hand removal, hand digging, or excavation with a
You're not
machine,
looking-
or
you're not
cutting.
looking to change the D-days on this for your purposes.
Fine, if it's a,
That's fine.
okay, just making sure.
All right, Bruce, so we'll try and get this ironed out and get it moving at the next meeting.
Great.
And we'll stay in touch on any particular projects that have issues or concerns between now and then.
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
Bruce, maybe before you go, Perlman's landscape plan, are we gonna get that soon?
Yeah, and we should set up a meeting to go over that, and I'm available, just let me know, send an email, and I will speak to them to get something to you in advance if they have something, more specific, but either way, we should meet beforehand, well, not beforehand, we should meet within the next couple of weeks.
Is that another site visit?
It's not another site visit, unless, have you done any cutting over there?
They were supposed to have done some cutting, I haven't been over to look.
All right.
They were
Then
supposed to have done
then
some
it
cutting last
probably
week.
would- Then it probably would involve a
So you
site
let me know.
visit.
right.
What we do want to do is get the conditions of last extension squared away,
Right,
so we can move forward at the end of this month.
good, I'll have that, at least reach out to them the next couple of days, we should have it within the week.
All right, perfect.
Good.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Bruce.
All right, next, Sarah Davison.
Thank you, Sarah Davison, Friends of Georgica Pond. I wanted to compliment and thank the board for opening up Georgica Pond on October 19th. Jim Grimes and Bill Taylor did an excellent job working with the contractor to ensure that the location and the design of the cut was perfect. So as of today, the cut is still east of the White Pole, indicating it's staying on trustee property, which is quite interesting. And the salinity levels in the pond are way up to seawater levels. So we're having tidal flushing, which is what we wanted to accomplish. And I just want to put this out to the board to remember and mark your calendars for next year, March 15th, 2018, to get the spring opening accomplished next year. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
I think the opening is determined by the migration of the fish, is it not?
Pretty much.
Pretty much, yeah.
But do we really know when the fish are?
Talk to the bayman and the guys up there.
Okay, we had a Bayman conversation on Facebook this week.
I didn't hear, I was no part of it, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to?
Would you like to see a couple pictures of the opening?
Yeah.
Sure.
We're going to look at the opening up of the cut at Georgica by way of a video here.
These are just some relatively short videos and pictures of the opening. Take just a moment to load. Maybe more than a moment.
There she goes.
That was the actual excavation.
Who was doing the work? Who was doing the work?
No, I think that
Friends
was
of ours.
Mike DeSuno, Carmine,
It was-
Danny Shields.
It's Danny.
And who was the cameraman?
I don't know, who took that one, you?
I took that, I think.
Were you on your lunch hour?
Actually, he took the day off.
Took the day off?
Yes, he did.
Good, good, good. Good to hear, glad to hear it.
I've actually used up
Good.
400 hours of personal time this year, but who's counting?
Lots of folks.
Yeah.
Now, the opening occurred, how do we know that occurs on our land? Do we stake that?
Yeah, it was, that pole is surveyed.
It was surveyed before the work
Yeah.
starts?
Yes. You can see the extensive.
Not by the trustees, the adjacent property owners.
The property owner's estate,
The adjacent property owners staked it.
okay.
That's what the significance of the white pole is.
See where, is there a white pole shown there?
Yeah, you
No,
can-
that would be probably somewhere down here. You can see all the extensive shoaling that is inhibiting the water exchange between the pond and the ocean. So that's the next objective, is to remove a lot of the shoaling and get a nice deeper channel to the north to facilitate the wetting. Great pictures.
yeah.
Yeah, if you want to scroll through them, Rick, you can work them out.
Where do I do it though? Right here?
Just point and click on the right arrow, please. The left click.
That was actually this morning.
The channel, does the channel get, by the time the channel gets to its full size, is that wider than our property?
I don't
Could-
think so now.
This time, it's just about the width of the property.
You can see the
See the pole
pole.
sticking up behind the
Oh,
pile of
that's it, all right.
sand?
So that's our westerly boundary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We started the channel pretty much right in the middle of the property, and it never reached that pole.
Yeah. You'd think the adjacent property owner would appreciate the pond being open, not worry about little encroachment there.
I don't think they're worried about the encroachment.
Worried about their beach
When it
house.
opens, it's a matter of opening it.
I still
where it's
question
supposed
why
to be.
we have such a narrow strip of land. Now
Yeah, there's a lot of gray up there, more so on the other side, though, the east side, in that project's, property's history.
That's some picture. The sky,
Yeah, it's beautiful.
beautiful day.
Beautiful spot.
Pretty wide.
Yeah.
It's been flowing pretty good.
That's the stake.
That's the seaward pole, is there more than one pole?
No, just that one.
I don't think it was staked on the east side, was it?
Yeah.
Just one pole.
See how nice that
That
sand
was the
is
beginning photo, I think, right?
that comes out.
Great day. Great day, Wainscott.
Yeah.
Did he describe to you the turkey tail when it opens? When you,
Where it meets the ocean?
well, it goes
Should I close
through,
this, Rick?
but then the waves actually start to roll back
Right.
into the pond. And Carmine called that the turkey tail. He said if it gets halfway back, you know, you got a good opening, it'll stay open.
So far, so good. Anyhow.
All right, next up, Mark Mendelman.
Hi, I'm Mark Mendelman with Seacoast Enterprises Associates. This is regarding 3 Mile Harbor Marina and an extension of trustee permit T6 number 16. I passed around, I submitted a letter and some copies for the board. I'll just read the letter. Dear East Hampton Town Trustees, permit T number 6-16 covering bulkhead replacement and maintenance dredging expired last Saturday, October 14th, 2017. We had expected to perform the maintenance dredging portion of this permit during the winter of 2016 through 2017, so last winter, after the bulkheading portion of the work, but we were outside the dredging window by the time the bulkhead was finished. The dredging window opened October 1st of this year, 2017, so we lined up the contractor to do the work, and we were planning to commence the work later this week while we still have space in the boatyard. I pulled the permit today to send the written notification of commencement and noticed it expired a little over a week ago. The dredging will only take 5 days to complete, and we need to do the work before the yard fills up with boats for winter storage. We respectfully request, almost beg, a 1-month extension to the permit to allow the dredging to occur. We recognize this is an abnormal request, and I sincerely apologize for the lack of awareness of the expiry date. We can resubmit a new application containing the same information that was originally submitted at another fee, but we were really hoping to proceed more quickly than the normal timeline of the trustee permit process. Our goal is to get the work done as soon as practicable, while all the other conditions necessary for the work, the dredging window being open, the boatyard space being open, and the contractor's schedule being open, are met. Respectfully submitted.
Anybody have any questions, or?
Yeah,
The-
What's the feelings of the other members of the harbor committee?
I think that they should get the extension. I mean, you know, they've done a lot of work at their marinas, and they've always crossed their Ts and dotted their Is. I see how this thing, you know, crawled up their back unannounced, and I think they should get it.
All right.
Yeah,
yeah, I was on the site today also.
Absolutely.
You want to make a motion?
I would. I would make a motion to extend the permit that would allow them to do the dredging, not to exceed
A
What,
month is-
a month?
Is all we really need.
30 days.
30 days from tomorrow. Is that okay?
With all the conditions that were attached to the original permit,
Absolutely.
okay? So we need to know the name of the contractor before you start?
Yeah, you could do
Are
that.
you seconding it?
No, I'm asking that, I'm
First, we
adding
have
on
to.
to it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm just finishing what I knew Brian was going to say.
I guess if we're extending the permit, all the conditions
Same
of the
permit.
original
It's still
permit
gonna-
are gonna
exactly.
be
You
there,
need to
so.
spell it out.
Right.
You need
No,
to
no,
spell it
absolutely.
out. Yeah.
And
Anybody-
if you folks know to do that. So having made a motion, do I get a second?
Yes, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Definitely.
Okay,
Okay,
you
good.
have your extension.
Yep, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Kevin McAllister?
Thank you, Francis. Kevin McAllister of Defend H2O. Congratulations on the cut, by the way. I'm sure that was a long time coming. I wanted to provide you with a brief update of methoprene. As you know, we're at the tail end of the year, calendar year. By the third Wednesday of November, this will move through CEQ. So the 2018 Vector Control Annual Work Plan, it does once again include methoprene applications. According to, I guess, their summary, they deployed methoprene and BTI over approximately 18,000 acres. That's according to them. Substantial. Within their prior work plans, they identify anywhere from 20 to, I believe, 30,000 acres of wetland treatment. CEQ is the secret arm, State Environmental Quality Review Act. So they, based on a 2007 environmental impact statement, they will ultimately neg deck this. It will move in subsequent days or weeks. I believe the end of November, the Public Works Committee with the legislature will take up the annual work plan. Again, it will presumably include methoprene. And then sometime in December, it's expected the full legislature to vote on the annual work plan. I will continue to register opposition to this pesticide, again, deployed directly in the marshes. I will remind you that Connecticut banned it in all coastal areas in 2013. New York City in 2001 in their EIS recommended or restricted its use near Jamaica Bay. State of Rhode Island has restricted its use adjacent to Narragansett Bay and Long Island Sound. And more recently, I was just brought to my attention the National Fish and Wildlife Service and one of their natural refuges, Coos Bay in southern Oregon, in 2014 had moved to basically stop spraying pesticides and principally methoprene application in favor of BTI, which is the biological agent. And all the jurisdictions that I mentioned do use BTI. So there is a viable alternative. You know, I'm certain in my mind from the science that I've seen enough debating the science. This kills crabs, kills insects. There's no place being deployed over this marsh when we consider 20,000 acres. When you consider the stresses on our water bodies, we're dealing with nitrogen, you name it. I mean, you deal with it each and every meeting. Ultimately, again, this is an insult that really needs to end. So with respect to the board's position, I know there was, I'll say, a pause, if you will, based on the study. And as I understand it, this is basically some larval sampling to determine where these hotspots are. I would caution the board going forward, because I know this is in the works. Ultimately, the county wants to move away from methoprene only if and only they can get into these hotspot areas and ultimately excavate them into pond building to eliminate the breeding sites. This is not either or. Methoprene just needs to go. We need to be very thoughtful and mindful of wetlands going forward, particularly with sea level rise. You know, I submit to you that we need every square meter of sponge out there, you know, creating donut holes in the marsh. You know, that's misguided. So that's the update. You know, I hope, you know, you're aware of it. Again, an annual work plan is our opportunity to weigh in on this. I hope you will register opposition to the use of methoprene in the 2018 vector control annual work plan. Thank you.
So Kevin, does the 2018 work plan have the same exact acreage of treatment as the 2017 one had?
They provide a range.
Yeah.
So that, again, this is the first time I've seen any reference to actually what was treated. And I will say the 18 work plan, relative to the prior years, they basically cookie cutters. There's been some change to this, at least in the narrative, on the history of vector control and some of its practices. But they definitely are putting front and center their ambitions to go into these wetlands and eliminate hotspots or breeding areas under the guise of marsh restoration.
Kevin, have you had an opportunity to speak with Bridget Fleming at all?
Yes, some time ago.
Some local networking, you know, possibly to make a, you know, a stronger local case. We did have, you know, some modest success this year trying to work with the sampling program to reduce the applications. And, you know, Bridget, you know, had a leadership role in that. And it seemed like this might be taking more of an incremental detuning kind of a direction rather than a hard cutoff type of an approach. So I don't know if we want to consider, you know, trying to wean our, you know, continue to wean ourselves off of
Yeah,
this
no, I
bad,
can appreciate that, maybe
you know, as a
in
plan
play.
B, or, you know, just to continue making improvement.
But my point to the marsh manipulations, again, if ultimately, if exclusion of methoprene means that we have to go into these areas and create ponds and excavation, then we have to be very cautious about that approach. And I submit in the interim, it is a let's not use methoprene any longer. You know, it's quite settled in my mind, and particularly when you look at jurisdictions. We need to look no further than Connecticut. They did due diligence on this. I know that because I was involved in at least providing some information and understanding, you know, what the, you know, the dialogue was in that state.
Has Connecticut done any research post stopping the use of?
Not to my knowledge. I will say anecdotally, and I said this in kind of sarcastically, you know, the sky's not falling in Connecticut. We know that much to be true. With respect to real specific, you know, evaluations, I'm not aware of them, Jim.
You know, I had mentioned that, like I think everybody feels that, you know, we want our bays to be healthy. The dilemma that we have, or I have, is when I call the head of vector control and he tries to tell me that methoprene is like mother's milk. There lies, you know, a frustration. You know, I do believe what you say in your research. I would like to believe what the county is saying. This is almost unfair that they put the public in the middle of this. But I'm definitely in favor of setting aside areas and not spraying. There's too much at stake if they're wrong.
And
Yeah.
again, there's enough stress on these water bodies today. We're well aware of it. This is one that really needs to go away. Cease and desist. You know, that's certainly my position on this. And let's be very cautious and scrutinize, you know, to the greatest extent possible, any prospective plans that go into these wetland complexes, because they are at play. And I will tell you from my firsthand experience and seeing the sites and what was prescribed, the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And we're going into marshes that are quite viable in just basically chasing the mosquito breeding areas.
Kevin, I will say, I really share your concern about the open water marsh management techniques, the AMWAM kind of stuff, because you're right. I mean, a lot of that does involve making ponds in marshes, which, is not really at the best benefit to the health of the marsh. It's more for us to control mosquitoes. So part of my understanding, going forward with collecting larval sampling and working to identify these hotspots was that we could hopefully get to identify hotspots and be able to hand treat them with BTI or things like that, instead of actually having to spray methoprene over some huge swath of marsh, that we could know, hey, they're breeding in this little salt pan here, they're breeding in this little pan here. Let's go to these spots by hand and use actually like the solid freeze-dried BTI pellets or something like that to treat those spots in a way that's not going to, unnecessarily affect non-target organisms. I mean, how do you feel about some kind of push to use more of that technique?
Well, you mentioned
rather
BTI,
than,
absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
in favor of BTI. It's a viable alternative. These other jurisdictions rely on BTI exclusively. They've shelved methoprene because of, again, the.
What is the deadline for comment on this work plan?
Again, CEQ is just basically strictly the secret compliance, which, unless they were feeling courageous, they'd take up methoprene, but likely they will approve, neg deck it, and it moves on to then the subcommittee, the Public Works Committee, and I believe that is sometime, I believe the 16th I have in my mind, but
Of November or December?
of November.
is it the third Wednesday, right?
I'm not sure. I can provide you that date.
Okay.
And then presumably it goes to the full legislature thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, I have an interest in revisiting what went on this past season and looking at how that might be able to be leveraged. And to the point Tyler made, can we expand on what we did and try something like the hand treatments and maybe get a larger area that's no spray and hand treated and, start to make some progress.
Good.
So,
And last thing to Tyler's point, and, I just need to point out with respect to the marsh management, in 2005, Suffolk County was poised. They actually applied for a DEC permit. I had weighed in, and actually a lawsuit is what stopped issuance of that permit. They were looking to redredge 660 linear miles of existing ditches, just open these conveyances right up again. A year later, then it became new age open marsh water management, with respect to the manipulations of the pond building. Quite frankly, I don't think they have a full grasp of their actions, and particularly they are not managing these wetlands in consideration of sea level rise, which again is going to have real implications on shorelines. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. All right,
So Ken,
Colleen?
I was going to say, would Tyler like to work on a comment from the board and get it up to them by the third week of, yeah.
Do it
Does a
again
great
and
job.
write up a draft and,
Yep.
submit it to you guys.
Tyler,
Yeah.
are you along the lines of what I mentioned earlier about expanding the program from this summer and the hand treatment?
Yeah, I think what we
something
came to, was a fair balance and a good idea. It's
Get-
good
make
to
some
just
more progress.
get more data and have our own, data coming from us too, so you have kind of two sources of data, and we can get more robust data that will help us figure out where the hotspots are.
And maybe meeting with
And hopefully-
Bridget Fleming
Yeah.
also and
I
get
think we should make it
feedback
clear
there.
kind of that we would prefer, having the identification of these hotspots lead to hand treatment with BTI as opposed to, leading to things like ponding or filling in pans.
Right.
Yeah, there's still talk of setting up a meeting with everybody to go over this year's program with vector control and stuff.
Might be a
It
timely
hasn't been
opportunity.
Yeah, it hasn't been finalized, but
All right, well,
if
can
I
we-
care of
we
a
could
date,
do it
I'll let
before
you
the
know.
16th.
Then I'd love to
would be
be there,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
All right, great, I'll
Colleen,
get that
Pen?
draft in the next 2 weeks.
This is Fresh Pond Creek.
Can you pass them out?
Yeah. Well, maybe one.
Great.
They're kind of small. I'm Colleen Henn from Surfrider. Surfrider and CCOM have been testing the water quality at Fresh Pond Creek since summer 2013. We are concerned about the water quality in the creek. I'm sure you guys have all heard about it. We were able to look back in time at the past couple years of our data and release a report in July of this past summer, and a couple media groups picked up on that. The town responded very quickly, so first off, I'm here to say bravo on that. A sign got posted. This was August 23rd, I believe. A sign got posted, and the creek was dredged open to be open and flowing to the bay. That's consistent with what we've seen in the water quality. We find that the bacteria is heavily dependent on whether or not it's rained recently and if that creek is open and flowing to the bay. Probably don't need to explain that to you. That's probably pretty obvious. You're dealing with situations like Georgica, so it's a very similar situation. We were curious if you were all working with the town at all to secure any permits you need for managed dredging, or if that was even in the plans at all. And second, we were wondering if by the time next summer comes along, if we aren't seeing any improvements in the water quality, if we can start the conversation about having a more permanent sign put up at Fresh Pond.
Yeah, well, yes to all of those things.
Okay.
Bill, you were working
We-
on permits on that.
Yeah.
Where are we?
We have to apply for them.
It was in place, so did it expire, or can we renew it? There was one, in- all right,
Okay.
all right.
Okay, but that was it expired when? May?
Right before, yeah, the pond is actually pretty well open right now.
Okay,
It's been open
Last
since
spring?
the end of
But
August.
really-
And we
It's
have
been-
to, we have to get a permit.
but really, if it expired in May, we really should have an application before the DEC right now.
Yeah, I'll work with Bill to get that going.
Colleen, where did you actually do the testing? Which spots did you?
So, I think it's the south side of the parking lot. There's those little bathrooms right there, and then the trail that takes you directly to the creek. We test right there, and then on the eastern jetty.
Now,
So,
wouldn't that stand to reason that it might be the level of nitrogen so high from the people using the bathroom and have nothing to do with Fresh Pond, seeing that it was in such close, the testing was in such close proximity to the bathrooms?
so I know the Water Quality Committee is working on doing some source testing. We don't have the capacity to say whether it's human or animal, but I know that the Water Quality Committee has been doing some source testing on that.
Okay.
So hopefully
Yeah,
we'll
but
have answers.
If you're just doing your tests at the bathroom and downgrade of that point, wouldn't it be wise to be doing a third sample a little farther, closer to the headwaters of the creek?
Yeah,
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 we
we could do
actually,
that.
we actually went in there with Surfrider and somebody else this year and did a whole spectrum of, did a circle around. the
Yeah, but I
pond.
mean, as far as tracking, I mean,
As
it
tracking,
would be
yes.
nice during the season, we're taking these samples, and certainly that bathroom isn't gonna get a whole lot of use in the wintertime. But to just track those
Yeah,
coliform numbers.
The coliform's
through-
right by the septic surf. You're looking for, that's where it's gonna be. That's the line
Well,
it is.
But
okay.
working with Surfrider and Concerned Citizens of Montauk on their water sampling, it might be easier to look at your data and want to move forward, working with you if we had known you were in there sampling in the first place.
that's why we're here right
To
now.
know where you were and how you're collecting it and all
Yeah,
that
of
kind of
course.
stuff. And actually, I mean, a lot of what you have to work with is, once you collect your data, what lab is analyzing it? Like the DEC has one lab that they will approve data coming from.
Right.
So, these are questions that should have thought about.
Definitely, definitely. And we're happy if you
It
guys
takes the
want to.
guesswork out,
Yeah.
So we can identify, is it coming from the pond? Is it coming from the bathroom? And it is on the agenda to get it dredged, excavated. What happened last year and the tail end of last year into the spring, the permit had expired.
Okay.
So it is on our list of things to do.
Okay.
Right. On the other hand, it is also very interesting that both Fresh Pond and Northwest Creek, which have minimal development around them,
Right.
are having these issues with
And it
water.
very well could be animal sources.
Yeah.
But
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
dredging and flushing the
Yeah.
pond is really not the answer. I mean, we don't want to turn the pond into a toilet.
No.
You know, we just flush it out whenever the numbers are high. That's ridiculous. We got to get to the source of the problem.
Well, that's why I was
Some,
asking, that's why I was asking the
yeah.
question about the bathroom.
These
Yeah, that's-
bathrooms would be a great candidate for the new septic system.
Well, hey, whatever the case.
Yeah.
With it there, Brian, yeah.
If town facilities are the source of the problem, then it should be easier for us to
Right.
deal with that.
You'd hope so.
Yeah.
Colleen, I have a comment.
Source tracking will
question.
help a lot, yeah.
But we don't even know if that's the case. I don't know how often those bathrooms are being used.
I'm sorry?
We don't even know, I mean, I don't even know how often they're used.
They're all used quite a bit in
Summertime?
the summertime.
And that tracking's being done, Rick. You know,
There's
right
a
now,
sail, there's a surfing class up there. There's people that use the bay constantly. Yeah, it gets used quite a bit.
It's also the park there.
Yeah.
The park is being used a lot on weekends,
right.
picnic and stuff.
And there's a lot of deer. There's a lot of
Yeah,
deer
that's
right
the other
there.
issue is
Yeah.
animal waste.
Yeah,
So-
that is a septic system that should be looked into.
You know, we are working with Dr. Gobler, and I believe on Georgica Pond, he has done some more definitive testing to identify sources of different properties in the water. So there may be an opportunity for some collaboration going forward.
I think we could do some
And,
testing.
you know, Colleen, if you wanted to start to establish a little more of a rapport with the board going into the next season, I think we can do a better job of working together
Yeah, that'd be great.
and make the testing more effective.
Yeah, and I'm happy to go in, maybe just like site test with one of you and like show you where we're sampling. And we usually go where it's the deepest. We have to be up to our knees to sample. So it's not always adjacent, like directly adjacent to the bathroom, but wherever we can sample the deepest. So we're not getting any of that like ground sediment in the sample.
Do you have a card or contact information you
Yeah.
could share with Lori perhaps, so we
course.
can reach out to you at some
Yeah.
point?
Yeah, I think you just mentioned the bathroom as a bearing for your,
Yeah.
and then it turned into a
Down
whole
here, Rick.
discussion.
Oh, it's right at the bottom? Great.
I mean, in East Hampton, down where you,
Okay,
Pretty
there you
much
go.
across the
Great.
board, Georgica,
could be misconstrued.
the ponds, all around Malta.
It's not right.
the Mount Harbor.
Colleen, are you doing anything over by Havens Beach in Sag Harbor?
Yes, we sample havens. We've actually never gotten a hit there, which is very interesting. We're pretty surprised by that.
Okay, I'd love to see those results sometime.
Yeah, so at Haven, right? We were surprised too.
You've never gotten over 104?
No. I think we've gotten maybe a medium hit there, but nothing above the EPA standard for recreation.
Well, that's great.
Yeah, it's
Good to
pretty
hear.
confusing, but great. So we do, all of our data is online, and this is partially why I'm here, to just say this is so available for everyone. You can export it, like we have it's just a link under our data that you can export it and see all like the raw information that we put in, like temperature, tides, everything. So I'm happy to establish a better relationship, and hopefully we can clean up
What
Fresh
is that
Pond.
website?
It's on the
It's on
bottom
there.
of
It's a-
this.
Oh, it's on here. Okay.
Just hand it
Surfrider
to you.
/Blue Water Task Force. So it's surfrider.org/blue-water-task-force.
Yeah, and we have so many sites that we split East Hampton and Southampton labs, so you'll just have to click East Hampton.
So that was my other question to, because Diane kind of hinted at this, but we didn't really ask you directly, but who does analyze the samples?
We do.
You guys?
Citizen scientists. Yeah, so we bring them to CCOM.
Where?
CCOM has a lab
Okay, CCOM's
for our East Hampton sites, yeah. And then we take all of our Southampton sites to Chris Gobler's lab at Stony Brook, Southampton, and we analyze them there, so.
So it could be redundant, right? I mean, in terms of Chris Gobler checking an area, you checking an area.
If we're testing for the same thing, 100%.
Why would you do that?
There's always variation, though. It helps to
So-
have more.
Excuse me,
data
I'm
points.
asking her.
Yeah, sure.
Bacteria clumps. So you can take samples right next to each other and get completely different results. So that's why we're like proud to come in here and say we have data from the past, like since summer 2013, because it's less of a guessing game, and it is really important to get as many samples as you can. So we test for fecal bacteria, Enterococcus it's called. It's under the same umbrella as E. coli. They test for blue-green algae. They test for a lot of other indicators, but this is just what we're set up for. It's the EPA recommended methodology.
And that's what the DEC tests for.
Yes. But they test once a month, so we try to augment that and provide more information to the public.
They test after a certain amount of rainfall.
The last thing I'll mention, and then I'll be done, is this idea that respectfully you say, now, basically what I'm hearing you say is, we want you to fix Fresh Pond. Well, that may, may not always be the remedy. Okay, this could be a case where nature has to take its course, it's opened up. It doesn't sit comfortable with me when you say that. You can give us the results of the water quality, allow us to look into the remedy. Don't say, we expect it to be fixed, because we're still in the discovery stage to what would be the best way to go, depending upon the water body that we're looking into. Thank you.
Yeah, I completely understand that. I look forward to working together.
Good.
Let me ask, I have one more, I have other questions
Okay.
still. All right, what happened in 2016? Why there, just curious why there's so few data points in 2016?
So that was for the creek. Well,
And you have, yeah, in the creek it's pretty good, but then in the, just curious.
So,
Like,
can somebody
is it
explain
definitely
to
a
me
steady
where-
schedule
where
of
is Fresh
sampling?
Pond Creek? I know there's a fresh pond.
She means the creek that connects the pond to the bay.
Connection to the bay.
Fresh pond.
The long,
The inlet
That's
It's-
the inlet,
it's
yeah.
where all the kids play.
along
That's
the
what you,
beach.
that's what you call the creek. All right.
It's that little
pond
section
inlet.
of water
Opens.
that bisects the
Like the
beach.
gut.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
Well,
the
it
gut.
goes with-
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Any other
Okay.
But do you have a
questions?
definite schedule, so that doesn't happen where you have the same set schedule of sampling, so that it's like an even data set with even spacing chronologically?
So we try to sample every week during the summertime, and then bi-weekly in the fall and spring, and then monthly in the winter.
Okay,
Something might have happened with a volunteer.
okay, just curious.
Yeah,
Something I
I
noticed.
wish I had an answer for that, but
Cool. No, I'm really happy you're doing this. I mean, everyone's really curious about Fresh Pond. It's a major place. I played there as a kid. I still play there sometimes. So we're glad to have like multiple people trying to gather data on it and figure out, like Brian said, exactly what the best way to deal with the issue there is. Because figuring out if it's animal Enterococcus or human is really important. And
that's going to be a huge answer
between
for us.
CCOM and Natural Resources doing work on that, we'll have an answer to that soon. So.
All right, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else want to address the board? All right, we'll move on to new business. Acrobatic Hog Creek, we have the ZBA application for Zedlovich.
do. I looked into that a lot. Opinions on it, but it seems to be that Zedlovich wants to have a swimming pool 75 feet from wetlands, where you need a 100-foot setback from wetlands. This is on the Isle of Wight one, right? It's on Isle of Wight Road, just near Hog Creek. I don't know, I zoomed in on Google Maps and brought up some like imagery of the property, if anybody wants to see just where that pool footprint is. It's there already. I don't know, I think that's gonna be maybe moved closer, because that imagery is from last year, if I'm not mistaken. But you can see that there's really not much of a buffer to the water there or any other.
Looks like there was a pool there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the story is with that, but it seems like, it just gives you an image of how close to the water that really is.
What are the other things in the application besides?
It's just two variances. It's the variance for the pool and the variance for a retaining wall for the pool. Which the retaining,
Do you have a site plan for the, a proposed site plan for the property?
I mean, I don't, we don't. We just
No,
have
we
the
have a
hearing
hearing
notice.
We just
I have the
had a
hearing
hearing.
notice from the
Did
ZBA.
you go to town hall and file?
No, I haven't done that.
Oh, so this is
That'd be-
basically useless.
Oh, okay. Well, that'd be a nice thing to do.
Right.
No,
Here's-
but I mean,
Point here is
honestly,
that-
the way to handle this,
Yeah.
go to town hall, pull a file, look at the survey, look at the site plan, for all we know,
Mm-hmm.
that's an old pool that they're pulling back to the house or whatever. I mean, we
Sure.
can't discuss this
So-
with no information.
What do you have, Diane?
This is what's being proposed.
Okay.
The proposed house, the proposed pool.
All right, so there we go. It's a better image of it.
With their infinity wall and et cetera. So again, we are adjacent
Yes, that was the old
property
pool.
owners. And just being that there are wetlands on the site, I would just comment, we prefer that you don't have variances to the wetlands. Just move
Yeah, I'm not a big
plenty
fan of-
room between the house and the pool.
I don't see any particular
back.
hardship they have here to
Yeah, there's no hardship.
this pool 75 feet from.
Yeah.
wetlands.
And
That's my
that could
point.
be our comment, because I think it's this week
This
as
is-
well, the hearing?
I think it's tomorrow, isn't it?
Tomorrow?
Disappearing
Yeah, it is
ditch.
tomorrow.
This is the sump. This is where the water runs down.
If it's tomorrow, why are we only hearing about it tonight?
Well,
We haven't-
We got this
our
weeks ago.
me-
Oh,
our
God,
me-
yes.
our meeting's a little
Yeah,
screwed
yeah,
up
yeah.
here tonight. Well,
Francis' fault. I'm kidding.
I don't set up the holidays.
We got these notices, weeks ago.
Yeah, okay, good. I was just, yeah, no.
They actually did a nice job of getting us the hearing notice in a timely manner and, yeah,
yeah, they've actually been pretty good about getting
Definitely.
us.
oh, yeah.
What's our position then?
I think we should just comment in some way, whether it's in person or in a letter,
Prefer
that,
not to
that
see
we-
these variances issued when
Yeah.
near wetlands.
yeah, as adjacent property owners, we feel that
Okay.
this could have a negative impact on our holdings or,
If we can draft a basic form letter/email and get it over to
yeah, we can do
the
that.
board.
Tomorrow morning.
Did we ever get together any kind of general ZBA letter format?
We don't have a
Lori
board,
knows
but-
what to do.
Yeah, yeah,
Tell her
definitely.
our position and,
Okay.
yeah, she'll type up a paragraph and send it to them.
I could swing over in the morning and take care of that.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
All right?
Yep.
There is another one in here that concerns me personally. I mean, it's right next to Acrobatic on Waring Lane. Applicant Scott Sinawi, it's demolish the whole residence at 4 Waring Lane, construct a new 2,871 square foot, 2-story residence, 548 feet of decking, sanitary system, swimming pool, detached garage.
Who is this?
It's at 4 Waring Lane. I mean,
And it's
you can
adjacent
see it.
to
Adjacent
Acrobatic
to
Harbor?
Acrobatic Harbor, yeah.
On what road is it on?
Waring Lane.
Waring?
Here's another useless Google image.
Is this something you stumbled on?
Yeah, it's just
Well-
another one of the applications being here
Oh, I-
tomorrow night, yeah.
Yeah, but it's not on the agenda, right?
No, it's,
Which is fine.
Right, right.
I'm trying
that's what we're
to,
on the ZBA
Yeah.
stuff. The whole,
That's the property at
Property of
the
like-
end of Warning Lane?
yeah, right at the end. That one at the end there. So it's also
It's close to Acrobatic
right on the edge
Harbor.
of Acrobatic Harbor there, and they want to demolish the entire house and redo.
And are they up for tomorrow as well?
Yeah,
And do they require variances?
yes. They need,
Natural resources permit.
11.9-foot variance for the house, to be 88 feet from wetlands where it should be 100 feet.
yeah.
99-foot variance for the sanitary system to be 100 feet from wetlands where it's supposed to be 200 feet from wetlands. So that's the part that concerns me more, is that this sanitary system is about twice as close as it's supposed to be from town code.
You just, I don't know anything about the application, but I will say that if you're talking about a rebuild, you need to know what the existing conditions are.
Sure.
In other words, for all we know, they might be closer to that right now. I mean, I don't know, but.
Oh,
Is this an
yeah.
improvement, or is this getting closer?
Well, that still doesn't make it right.
It still doesn't make it,
I mean, environmentally,
Or you may have no room on the property that you can put a structure. You already
or,
have a house.
or maybe a smaller house.
You have the same thing.
I mean, I would be in favor of the same correspondence being set.
Yeah, it couldn't hurt to, recommend against it. I mean, if it,
Is this it? Yeah, it must be.
yeah.
Usually what happens
If they have a
when
real
somebody does
hardship,
a
I mean, they might
rebuild,
have an actual,
Well, there is,
Or is it
Serious
this?
hardship.
I don't
there's
know.
actually no such thing
Oh,
as
yeah,
a
that's
hardship
wearing
for
over
swimming
there.
pool. Okay, think about ZBA determinations, guys. It's hard to sell a hardship on a swimming pool.
Sure.
And what you do have the ability on this property is to pull back closer to the house and get it farther from the wetland. You have the ability to change the configuration of the pool. It's done in this triangular shape, which actually thrusts it out towards the wetland. There's a bunch of things that can be done to get the pool and mitigate the impact to the surrounding areas.
Yeah, I
So-
think we should comment on that one as well.
all right. I'll plan to go to the hearing tomorrow night, okay?
Yeah, if you
That'd be
read
great.
that EAF, actually, a lot of it's
good.
covered.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be helpful,
Thank you,
Tyler.
Tyler, that would be good.
Yeah, no problem. It's been a little while since I've been there, so. Whose copy is this? Is this your copy?
That's yours.
And who's this copy?
I don't know. That's
Might be Diane's. Did she
Did you give me
share
your
with
copy of
Oh,
this?
yes.
Okay. The wrong one?
All
All
right.
right.
Mappig Lazy Point, application of Gary Sirota, sandbag replacement at 401 Cranberry Hole Road.
Well, I actually met with Mr. Sirota last Friday, and if you look farther down under the old business, you got Curtis there, 393, which is the neighbor to the west of Mr. Sirota. And the situation he has there is pretty dire, to say the least. They put in there several years ago, they put in this bag system. At this point, the bag system is in the process of failing. The bags are beginning to topple over. Literally, the water has undermined, and just keep in mind, I didn't take pictures of this, but the bags literally are right up near the house. So, one of two things. He's either got to do a serious charge of sand, and this is one that I did meet with Brian Frank about some time ago, that the town, when they issued the permits on this, it was issued with the understanding that the bags were going to be removed, and a pretty substantial nourishment of sand and a rebuilt dune was in the works, but this apparently never happened. And it seems like Mr. Sirota was unaware that the bags were a temporary thing. And now we're faced with bags, no beach. Literally, it wasn't high tide when I was there, and there was basically no beach in front of this place. So I think this is going to be one where both of these properties really should be, they can't be part of one application, but they should be reviewed together, because the solution for one is going to be the solution for both. Right now, you've got the bag system, like I said, it's Sirota's that's failing. You have Curtis's property, which has an application before the town and us to add their own bag system.
Is Curtis immediately next?
Yeah,
It
they're
is
right next.
immediately next door.
Okay.
The bags are acting like a hard structure and affecting the neighbor's property, right?
Whatever, and that's why I mentioned, Jim Walker was mentioning there may be a home for Devon Sand, because
I talked
these
to-
guys need
yeah.
a serious hit. These guys need a serious hit of sand.
Have they done any nourishment or replenishment, as
Yeah.
far as you know?
Not that I could tell, but, you know, they're faced with this. They could either really, they could really rebuild the dune and beach, A, or they can move the house back, B. But moving the house back,
They don't have a
really
lot of,
you don't have a lot of room, and moving the house back, you really need to rebuild. You've got nothing
You
in
need to
front of
do
your
anything
house.
with your primary-
You're all right there, so.
Yeah, I spoke to Brian myself about these applications and suggested that we explore the possibility of the Devon sand being,
The Devon sand
Transmitted.
will be part of the solution. They're gonna need more than what.
yeah, it doesn't look like
What's
the
coming
Devon
out-
sand's not
what's
going to be
coming out
enough.
of Devon.
Yeah. So, are the homeowners willing to look at a soft solution?
They're really willing to look at any solution. I mean, this may even be two properties that would make more sense for a CPF purchase.
Yeah.
And I actually suggested that Mr. Sirota at least explore that possibility.
Yeah, the one property where the bags are is pretty well shot.
That's Sirota.
Yeah.
That's Sirota.
Wow, yeah, I see it online here. That's really
Yeah,
close.
yeah. You can
What's
see
the
that,
street address?
that's Cranberry Hole Road.
It's right down by the fish
401.
factory.
401.
It's
Yeah,
fairly
it's like
close to
two
the-
doors down from, it's 2 doors west of
What's the other guy's address?
393. They're right
393.
next door to each
the
other.
neighbors.
Yeah, I see.
So Jim, what are you proposing? Is there a recommended course of action at this point going forward that you'd like to explore?
Well, my recommendations to him is he really should get a budget together. You know, we had this very awkward conversation where, you know, what do I do with my bags? And when you're looking at the bags, they're keeled over at a 30-degree angle. I'd say, what bags? At this point, they really need to put together a real, it's not just an application
Right.
for us to replace
they need a
bags.
management plan.
This is an application for whether it's bags or whether it's sand. It's a significant rebuild here, because you've really got to get something that pushes pushes a dune out in front of this place, and then the associated beach.
So do they have a consultant that they're working with?
No, they've got, I think Curtis has Billy Mack is the applicant there, and my suggestion to, yes.
I sent an application to Curtis, but we haven't gotten anything back.
Now, I thought it was Curtis that had put an application.
No, it's Sirota.
That was Sirota with Billy
Yeah.
Mack?
Yeah.
Then why did the guy, he told me he didn't have anybody.
Sirota is the one that just.
And that's what just led me to believe it was Curtis that had the
No.
First Coastal.
Well, he may have First Coastal. I actually sent an email to First Coastal and never heard from them.
Well,
Yes,
that's
the
probably
the
why, if they
application-
haven't been engaged.
Jim, the application is to legalize the sandbags and move the house.
Okay. But apparently, he hasn't made a commitment to do to do either. So,
Well, leaving the sandbags there isn't going to fix it.
well, I
It's
tell
only
you,
gonna make it
watching this
worse.
thing,
It's gonna make it
watching
worse.
this thing, it's not getting better, and it's
No.
not getting better really fast.
Do we want to encourage him to engage with a
I
consultant
did,
and approach
I
the
did,
board?
I very much did.
Yeah.
I very much did. Gave him basically 3 directions that he could go in.
So he'll have to amend the application either way.
Yes.
Yes.
And I have Gary's numbers, I can kind of follow up with him. I think it's really a case here, we've got a homeowner that's really overwhelmed with the scope of what he
He's over
might
his
need
head.
to do, and I don't know that
How
he's,
long have the bags been there, Jim?
I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Probably been, Brian has all the numbers, but it's years. I mean, it was
Yeah,
supposed to
I
be put
mean,
in for
they-
6
they
months, a year,
accelerated
and
the
taken
problem.
out. The homeowner put the stuff in, apparently didn't never follow through with it.
It really looks like they put the stuff in and they walked away, and they said, well, okay, we're good now.
Buying some time.
Yeah, well,
And
and
we're not.
that's a problem.
So none of these applications are really ripe for any action.
You know what, they're really incomplete at this point, because you're gonna need documents prepared by a licensed engineer for this.
And
Well, the way this application reads, I mean, it's legalize the sandbags and then move the house. So we legalize the sandbags and we get the same thing again.
Well,
yeah.
this is, when you look at this property, and to a lesser extent, the one to the west, dimensionally from Cranberry Hole Road, there isn't a whole lot of land here. You gotta look at these properties and wonder, what was anybody thinking when they built in the first place?
No, I looked at this on the GIS,
Yeah,
and
we-
you can see how that beach is, I mean, probably 100 feet or more have been lost in the back of that house.
Yeah.
I'm getting the feeling this guy's not willing to sell his property to the town or anything.
Well, I think he may be thinking, the bottom line, when you get a property like this, one, there's no insurances that cover any of these, so this is completely out of your pocket costs.
Yeah.
All right, so when you're faced with things like this, what are you gonna do? You either have cash on hand, or you're gonna finance it over a longer period of time. If you're financing something that's gonna buy you another 15 years, and you're financing it over 20, I don't think it's of good value in the long,
Yeah.
in the long run, and this is very much,
Comes down to taking an economic risk or just giving up the property, I guess, yeah.
when you're faced with something where your restoration is not in the $5,000 or $10,000, it's in the hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
of dollars.
Do we want to send a formal communication requesting, the engagement of an engineer or something more advanced?
We could do that, but I had a conversation with Mr. Sirota where, he was kind of like at a loss.
Yeah.
And I said, listen, here's 3 ways you can go. Get a hold of a guy, figure out what the values of what you have here. Figure out the cost of moving the house, figure out the cost of restoring the dune, and then figure out whether you really want to stay here or not.
Yeah.
And if you don't want to stay here, well, there may be an option to sell.
Right. I just don't want to see us just have this permit sitting here with it not being an appropriate application at this time.
So let's send them a letter.
Yeah.
I don't see how we can legalize the sandbag.
No, we're not. No,
There's just no way.
no, and you know what? Clearly, he wasn't asking for that. And,
You wrote down.
well, no, that's what he was expecting there, but the day we spoke, I think it had
Became
sunk
clear.
in, because I don't think I was the only conversation he
Yeah,
had.
reality check. Oh, thanks, Jim.
So what should this letter say exactly?
I'll stop in, we'll talk about it.
Okay. Perfect.
Basically, the application is ungrantable at this time.
Well, yes, and that we're going to suggest alternative.
All right. Request from P. Keen to sublease house on lots 32S and 33S at
We
Lazy
didn't
Point.
receive all the documentation.
We did or did not?
We did not.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
So
it
we'll
has to
table
be
that.
the whole-
Okay.
Okay. 3 Mile Harbor, application of Peter Mendelman.
Yep.
Peter Mendelman, Seacoast Enterprises. This is for Harbor Marina, which is at the north end of the harbor. I have a couple of diagrams and some photos here that I can put on the table.
We have, yeah, give us what you have. The committee people have them already. Yeah,
Sure.
that's fine. Thank you.
These are just the pages of the diagrams from the actual application.
Yeah. Both Bill and I were down there today at separate times, so we're privy to what Peter's going to be talking about.
So this is regarding primarily the bulkhead at the southern end of Sedge Island, which is opposite the fuel docks at Harbor Marina. When you sit at the former Bostwick's, now Basic Kitchen Bar, and you look out over Sedge Island to the main channel that comes down 3 Mile Harbor. And we started talking to the board about this in 2011, 6 years ago. And for various reasons, the permit applications to the DEC, things got tabled, and we are where we are now, which is we have to do something, particularly with the southern portion of the bulkhead, which is an original creosote bulkhead that probably dates to the 60s. The eastern portion of the bulkhead, which directly faces the fuel dock, must date to the 80s or so, and seems to be made out of CCA and seems to be holding up, but we're not exactly sure because there's sand on both sides. So the pictures will show you that the creosote bulkhead is really in disrepair. Ice does come right up to it in the wintertime, and with the tidal flows, we're worried it might actually even get swept away. The deadmen tie rods are bent and in some cases broken, and it has to be replaced this fall. And we have a limited time window to do so. The permit application is to do emergency repairs to the entire portion of the bulkhead, but we truly anticipate that the 128 feet is really the emergency part, the creosote portion. We will do that. We'll turn the corner and see within the first 8 feet or so of the CCA if that's in good shape. And if it's in good shape, we may just choose not to do it, but we have to have a permit to do the whole thing just in case it is bad at the water line. I personally feel 90% chance it's going to be fine, and we'll leave it there for another 15 years.
What are you repairing it with?
We would be putting in place, in the same place, same height, shore guard vinyl sheathing with Greenheart untreated timber whalers, Greenheart pilings, 6-foot centers, and it's going to be a much better for the environment, much stronger and safer bulkhead moving forward. And the purpose of the bulkhead is really erosion control. And that brings me to the next part of the application, which is the shoaling along in front of the bulkhead has the sand kind of transports right now through the bulkhead and around, and the shoaling has gotten pretty bad. We've had a couple sailboats go aground coming in to the fuel dock. It's made the channel narrower and narrower and narrower over the course of the last 15 years. So our application is basically to take about a 50-yard curve of the southeastern portion of that, dig about 3 feet down, about 10 yards back, and kind of just skim that surface and place that 500 yards behind the bulkhead, initially dewatered in the dewatering site that the DEC requests, and then hopefully used to cover the dead men so that there's structure and support there for the bulkhead. So that's item number 1, the redoing of the bulkhead. Number 2, the maintenance dredging of that swath of the curve. And then 3 was just, we do have some old creosote pilings, 6 of them. Almost all the pilings have been replaced. All the creosote pilings have been replaced over the years, but we've got 6 that we'd like to replace over the course of the winter. 2 of them in particular have to be replaced like soon. So the first ice that comes, they're going to be gone.
Are those the last that are creosote?
Those are, I think, beyond these 6, there might be 3 more creosote ones in the entire marina. But those are outlined on the last page of this packet as circled filings from a copy of the survey.
Yeah.
So the construction of the bulkhead is outlined in the permit. It's standard construction. The dredge profile is also shown. There's still going to be beach in front of the bulkhead.
Peter, did you have a permit at one time for this application?
No, well, we have a valid East Hampton Town building permit.
Right.
We have a valid NRSP. We have a valid New York State DEC permit. All of those permits were applied for in the context of the initial application in 2011 to the trustees, which also included 150 feet of mainland bulkhead work near our travel lift slip, where we did some spot dredging. We completed that a couple of years ago, and in 2015, and quite frankly, I thought that permit was what the building permit was referring to. So I apologize, I haven't come before you 3 months ago. I kind of thought I was covered, but I'm not.
And when are you ready to get moving on this project?
Grimes was lined up to start as soon as the materials arrive, and the materials could be arriving later this week from Portland.
If my colleagues have no questions, having gone there with Bill, looked at, I think it's very straightforward. I would make a motion that we allow a permit to be generated, providing that it meets our standard conditions.
Do we have an application
There
for
is
you?
an application.
There is an application,
I
okay.
submitted it with a
Yeah.
fee on Friday.
Okay.
Again, apologize for the short notice. I would be happy to answer any questions. There's also a letter I submitted after Bill and after Brian visited that tries to clarify what is in the permit application and
Yeah.
what is not. What is not in the permit application is what's already been completed
Sure.
on the mainland.
Yeah, it's in disarray, I could see, and it needs to be addressed as quickly as
And
possible.
it
yeah.
would be extraordinarily helpful, to use my brother's words, this isn't a beg situation, but it is a extraordinarily helpful situation if it could be addressed soon, because you guys know that the window is tight in the fall, and getting on the contractor's schedule is tough too.
Now, all the other work on the site really looks good. This is definitely dilapidated and needs to be done. If you can get it done now, I would personally have no objection.
Yeah, I agree that it looks really essential to repair this. I like the fact that this treated wood is gonna, get out of there.
Yeah.
And stuff. What are you said it's unlikely in your mind that the rest of the CCA wood around the bend there is gonna get replaced. I mean, if you were to do that, how would it affect your costs at the time of the project?
It would double the costs and double the time, and it would double the disruption.
Right.
Which is the other part of it.
Yeah.
Permit?
If it's in place, and I'll just say, CCA tends to leach out most in the first 2 weeks of its use.
Yeah, it's probably-
And the DEC actually permits it in other jurisdictions if you pressure wash it first and collect the pressure washing water. This CCA has been there it's probably since the 80s, so it's at least 20 years old.
Yeah, it's not really giving up
It's
more
not really
residue at this
giving up
point.
It's not
much
really-
more.
It's not terribly exposed to
Yeah.
the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's mostly in the land, actually, at this point.
All right, well,
So-
it's healthy, I'd love to see it.
With my motion and Bill's second, I mean, is everybody okay with moving this along?
Yeah.
You made a motion?
I did.
You second it? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
As described in this, it's perfect. That's all.
Absolutely, yeah.
Only thing I was going to clarify.
Yeah.
It's perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay. Next, we have a letter from Deborah Barnes at the DEC. They're asking us if we want to establish a conditional shellfishing program.
That's the rainfall conditioning shellfish program they had years ago. And the DEC stopped them because the DEC didn't have enough personnel or something. Now they want to start them up again. They'd like us to give them a location. Last time we had one in Acrobatic and one in Northwest Creek. And
But correct me if I'm wrong, is the letter also looking for us to financially support this conditional programming this time around?
There's requirements that
I forgot the
provide for
program.
the testing.
I forgot it. Can you refresh me?
What it
who they
is
are
a program, areas that would normally be closed to shellfishing are open to shellfishing if there's been a dry spell. If it hasn't rained for 30 days, past a certain point, then their data shows that it's safe for shellfishing. But it requires that every rainfall be recorded and measured.
Who does that?
Town personnel.
In the past, I had done it. I mean, town personnel. This program would have to be reestablished. We'd have to establish, Acrobatic is mostly open now, except for the two ends. Northwest Creek is a possibility you could open.
Could it go into committee, Bill, and?
Yeah, I think we
and
should
kick-
look
Well, we
at
have
it.
to contact them by the
Yeah, and
31st.
get all the
If we'd be
particulars.
interested, I told Melissa, and I guess Rachel wrote a letter about it too, about how involved it was, the setting it up, and we really ought to,
Yeah, if they've got the additional funds and personnel now to do more testing,
Yeah.
I mean, I think,
I think they're talking about lab there. I think they're looking for either the town or the town
Right.
trustees.
but the closed areas are based on 3 years' worth of data.
Yeah,
So let's get some more data, and maybe we can get some more areas open.
well, they want 15, I think they want 15 they need 15 samples gathered under the ideal conditions in order to open a rainfall conditional area.
Which may or may not happen in any given year.
It has to happen on
Yeah.
a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or Thursday,
guess-
so you can get them to the lab and.
But I guess in the big scope of things, Bill,
Yeah.
No,
we
it doesn't
should-
rain that often, the areas aren't closed that often. To the recreational guy that wants to clam,
Looking at
I
it,
don't want
looks,
to impact a commercial guy, but
I think we should look into it a little bit, see if it's,
All right.
do a little cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, get
Because
back
it
to
looks
us.
like part of Hog Creek, you might be open up a fairly large section. It doesn't look like an Acrobatic Harbor, it's really, they only open up seasonally closed areas, and most of Acrobatic is
I
open.
think tonight we need to decide on a site.
Yeah, we have
If we're
7
gonna
days to get
pursue
this into
this,
them, yeah.
Well, we'd like to want to explore Hog Creek, and tell her we'd like to explore
When
Hog
I first
Creek.
got the email, my first thought was Acrobatic, of course, because we
Yeah,
just
how
opened the culvert in
accessible
the
is
spring.
Hog Creek, though, to your general recreational or commercial
This
shellfish?
is really geared towards the commercial guys.
More than it used to be with the property acquisitions, so it's better.
There is some access there now, yeah.
These programs are popular with many commercial harvesters because they're often located in areas that are close to the shore and offer some shelter from harsh winter conditions.
Where are you reading that from?
Can we,
The letter that they sent us.
Did we get that?
yeah, we all got an
I don't know if you got-
email a little
Yeah.
while back. I read it about a week or two ago in my email.
Yeah, what did come into the email?
I want to hear what Rachel's letter has to say too, before we talk about this more, so we know what
Is there a copy?
somebody is, from the public is rendering an opinion on this. And so I'd love to hear that before we have more of a discussion.
Is there
Yeah,
Because I haven't seen Rachel Grusin's letter yet. about this.
okay.
you want to just,
Excuse me, this is from Rachel Grusin.
Thanks, Francis.
I write with interest in coordinating with you on New York DEC's recent outreach to you as well as other trustees in towns regarding a conditional harvesting program. I understand that the DEC's Deborah Barnes wrote Mr. Bach on September 29th with an invitation to collaborate on water quality sampling in one water body. I coordinated a committee of municipalities in eastern Suffolk County addressing water quality protection and restoration in the Peconic Estuary. We've been communicating with the DEC to facilitate and increase sampling efforts in various water bodies. Perhaps I could facilitate communication between East Hampton Town, the trustees, and the DEC on which areas we could prioritize this year for a conditional shellfish program and help schedule the protocol training session with DEC. Excuse me. I've spoken with Mark Abramson about which East Hampton site to sample, and we thought Acrobatic would be critical. We could also select multiple locations that include Northwest. I welcome your thoughts on this and where the trustees in Bayman would benefit most. I'd also love the opportunity to share with you a brief update on the committee's quality assurance program plan for water quality monitoring. The QAPP is the nascent phase of development and currently have a contractor selected who will work with DEC and EPA to develop the QAPP, which can then be used in future municipal water quality sampling programs, likely in the end of 2019. The trustees have done great work with Dr. Christopher Gobler and his team to collect water quality data. The committee aims to carry forward and build upon these efforts by expanding municipal capacity for sampling. So
Okay,
that's what she's
for reading that
offering.
all. So you're saying Acrobatic essentially is what that committee's kind of,
Acrobatic's their first choice.
but nothing in specific.
Possibly
yeah,
Northwest.
Acabonic's always been our first choice, I mean, when it comes down to all these things.
But we're saying there's not enough seasonally closed areas there to,
They're telling us we can have one, yeah, so,
One area. We could go after that 20 acres that were most recently closed.
yeah.
I mean,
That would make
Acrobatic
sense.
has
But you thought that the
pretty nice
location of that
shellfish
was
abundance right now.
not great.
yeah, I mean, Acrobatic's.
Yeah, well, we can,
I don't know how much
Like the
shellfish are actually in the end of Northwest Creek past the delineation line for seasonal closures. Most of the seeding activities are going on to the north of that line.
yeah.
So I don't know
that's
how
the
much
area.
benefit the south end is going to offer. It's
Be
also a
interesting.
really mucky bottom back there for the most part.
It'd be cool to see look at the maps from the shellfish hatchery and see where they seeded, and maybe
Yeah.
kind of let that inform the decision to a degree, but
We'll just reply that we
We are interested.
are interested,
Yes.
get them, we're interested in exploring the possibilities for Acrobatic Harbor and for Northwest Creek.
I think we're also going to have a conversation with the town to see
See who's gonna,
if they're willing to.
I was explaining to them all of the intricacies that, because you have to set this thing up so you can do it. It also requires a shellfish hotline, which the town still has in existence, and somebody to put a message on the board daily, whether the area is open and closed. So it's gonna take a commitment on the town's part to actually do this. So I guess we have to speak with them also.
and they weren't really asking for a financial commitment from us, right? It was just a work commitment, a time commitment, maybe having somebody on the board be trained to take the samples. I think that they were asking for that, right?
I think they're looking for us to
If
ask.
someone has a job, they're not going to be able to do this
Yeah, it's a lot of work, yeah.
because it also has to be transported.
Right.
Yeah, it's, it has to get to the lab.
Yeah, it is a lot of work transporting samples.
It's a real job.
I used to do it, and,
Yeah.
you had to be ready to go out on a Saturday or something and get the samples if it rained. Because there's all kinds of windows. Let the town explore it a little bit and see if they want to provide the personnel to do it.
Right. Yeah, we really can't do that. Unless we couldn't like get an intern for the summer to do it.
I don't know,
It's not summer, it's this.
Oh, sorry,
This is
winter. I
for
mean, for the
winter.
winter to do it, but yeah, not
But
many interns on the winter, I guess.
the rainfall data has to be collected. It's, the logistics were in place once. It's possible they could do it. I, have to see what their thoughts are.
It's friggin' hot in here, man.
It's warm.
Oh, my God.
Thank God you opened that door.
Keep it moving.
Okay,
Wait, so what are we doing now? Are we going to produce a letter to them saying we want to do this, but we don't know where yet, or?
I think all I have to do, according to the letter, I think I just have to contact them. I could do it by phone, let them know that we're interested.
So we don't need the location
Just
by
to
the
get things,
31st.
just so that
Okay,
they know that
good.
we're interested.
Okay, that's great, because then we should talk to some
I'd
Baymen
probably
too,
give
obviously,
them
and
an
see.
idea.
Yeah, we can survey
Yeah, I
some
don't think we're
folks.
gonna have a lot of time, because how many testing? 15 testings just to get it open?
No, it would take a year, just based on normal rainfall. I think what they're talking about is any rainfall more than 1/4 of an inch.
So this wouldn't even be able to be, whatever area we select wouldn't
be
be
a
open
year
this
from now.
winter at
Yeah,
all. It'll be
so
open
it's-
next winter.
yeah.
Okay, just clarifying for myself and the public.
Yeah. So we're gonna call them, tell them we might be interested and like some details.
Okay, Georgica Pond, old business.
So if any Baymen have, input into an area that
Yeah,
would be
no,
good to have seasonally open, and
We can look
Please let us
into
know.
the viability of how much, somebody wants to go up there.
Georgica Pond, dredging the south inlet, an emergency opening, which we've dropped. And also, the Georgica Cove dredging and excavation of the bottleneck. Anybody want to talk about our meeting? Jim?
Sure. Well, we met with the DEC 2 weeks ago. Now met with DEC and Fish and Wildlife regarding the draft permit we received some months ago that we found unacceptable. After a lengthy discussion, the DEC has agreed to take our seasonal letting out of the 10-year permit. They handed us back our draft permit, asked us to make comments. Basically, again, we had already made comments, we had hashed out a lot of that stuff. Bill, I think you highlighted, made those comments and passed those back
We sent
to.
it back, we sent it to, back to George.
These are
Hanlon.
just preliminary to see how they would.
But I
react to it.
received an email from him thanking us for our prompt response and that they were looking into
Okay.
the thing.
The impression we all got from this, now, we met, we had Georgia Association there, we had Friends of Georgica there. The impression I took away from the meeting is that the permit is forthcoming. We should have that fairly soon to be able to do this project this year. There are conditions of that permit that we are going to live up to and want to live up to. One of it is producing a management plan for Georgica Pond, and inclusive in that management plan is going to be a dialogue about our seasonal letting and the history behind it. One of the nice things that came out of that meeting was we had Fish and Wildlife there, and we got into a discussion about the issues that we've had with our seasonal letting and the presence of the piping plovers. And Fish and Wildlife put us on track to apply for the emergency permits, so things would be in place if, let's say, next year we found ourselves with the piping plovers camped out.
Early in the season.
Their people's attitude was they didn't feel that the seasonal letting, depending on where the plovers were going to be a big issue there. The trying to heal the let, if we were going to try and close it manually, such as the original MOU documents that were distributed around by the Georgia Association. So it made a really good argument to leave the seasonal lets opening. He said if there was going to be any injuries or collateral damage to the birds, it was most likely going to occur when you were trying to close it rather than,
It'd be easier for East Hampton Town to get one of their Section 10 permits.
well, that's what we're,
Designate it's not an emergency permit, it's a Section 10, which allows for an incidental take if you have other designated areas for piping plover protection and management.
We had that conversation, and they strongly
Yeah.
suggested that we apply for that.
yeah.
Good. Now, seriously though, this permit that's coming from the DEC for the dredging of Georgia Pond, the only condition that they took out was with regard to the seasonal letting? The other conditions, like,
No,
we-
we,
we're-
all kinds of
seriously,
stuff.
we're gonna leave in there that if it wanders off into the adjacent properties?
No,
No, that's
no,
another
that was,
issue. It's
another
no,
issue.
Diane, that was taken out.
Okay.
That was taken out. In fact, actually, what was really good was we came in there with our data for the last 40 years, where it gave the average number of days that pond stayed, that let stayed open was 20.5 days is what it averaged. The longest it ever stayed open was 120 days. This is over a 40-year period. And what was very helpful is the DEC looked at that and said, well, you know what? Then we really don't have a problem with that. Georgia Association has backed off on a lot of their, on a lot of their issues.
They've actually backed us up.
And they
at
have
this point.
and they have backed us up on our positions there. So I think we're in a very good, we're in good standing to get this thing squared away.
This is all great news.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Now, keep in mind, guys, the draft permit that we received from the DEC was the draft permit that was negotiated the same way we had done it in the past, where we had the Town Natural Resources Department do our bidding for us. And that was a product of that, of those negotiations, was the permit we received. The backtracking that we're doing right now is strictly and solely due to the fact that the input on that document wasn't coming from us, guys. It was coming from everybody but us. Now that we're dealing directly with the DEC, we really found it refreshing.
It's a better relationship to go
It's a better relationship, and at the end of the day,
Our interests are being,
well, they recognized
Yeah.
us in return for us recognizing them. So,
Yeah, I got a
think we're on
good
a good-
feeling.
I think we're on a
that
good track.
Good track. And separating the seasonal opening, I mean, we made the point that the dredge opening is a singular event. You dig a trench in the off-season, in the wintertime, you'll leave it open until the pond drains, and then you close it to facilitate the dredging, so.
No, you don't. You dredge it when the pond is open and low. And they have to continue to open, every time you get a bad, the thing will close again overnight and start to fill up. They gotta open it again so they can expose that shoal. You don't purposely
once the
close it.
shoal is exposed, they need to close it so that they can do the work.
Otherwise, it's tidal, Diane.
It's tidal.
You got 4 hours a day that you can work unless you're out there at night. And you know what? I don't think historically we ever did that. I don't think we were ever out there at night
No, I don't
doing
think
that.
so either, but I know you guys are like, you do what you wanna do.
Well, you want to get the shoal dredged out, right? And I don't see how they can do the work while it's open to the
You don't-
tides.
You don't. You
That's what I'm
don't.
saying. I
It's
agree with you
clo-
guys.
it's
Yeah, I know.
closed while the water is low.
It just was done for 10 years, Jim, but now I know, you know everything's better.
No, I
So
don't
let's
know
just do the way
everything,
you're
but
gonna
you
do
know
it.
It's never
you
been
know?
dredged.
Diane, not for
You know,
nothing.
not for
It was
nothing.
under your watch that this whole
Yeah.
thing fell apart.
No, it wasn't. Well, I mean, it was, but nothing was really falling apart until you made it fall apart. Everybody made it look like it was such a big thing. No.
There's just stuff that we're gonna be able to get done that was never able to get done before. I think it's
Well,
good.
You're not
I
doing
wanna
anything,
see
you're
the
not
shoal
doing
get done.
anything that wasn't done before, that's the thing.
Tyler, it's
You're not
stuff
doing
that was
anything that
done
wasn't done before.
Oh, it's going to be very different than the way it was done before. Before, it was exposed and it was taken from the closest point possible, which created a situation that caused the opening at the wrong part of the pond on its own, which then threatened the properties and the structures on to the west. So we're going to correct that.
Did you want to talk about the drone thing? Is that far enough? along?
No, I'd rather get a proposal on that before we discuss it. What has been brought up is we're gonna have to quantify and locate our actual dredging, and this is for our own purposes. DEC has not put that in their documents, but I think moving forward on this, to validate future dredging projects, it's gonna be important that we track what we've done, where we've done it, and the quantity of material that we've taken out of there. And there is some technology available that rather than do this on a site-based survey, it can be done with a drone at low altitude aerial assay that we can do a before and after every dredge. And we can do that for every dredging event. And 10 years from now, when this board is reapplying, we'll have baseline data to prove exactly what we're looking to do and why we're looking to do it.
Dredging portfolio.
And why the quantities, if we're taking too much sand, if we haven't been able to get enough sand, we'll be able to validate our position a little bit better.
That's good stuff.
I think the data we gather from just looking at the pond is gonna indicate that we should be able to take much
Well,
more
I
sand
hope.
out than we're speaking. No,
I'm not
but
gonna,
that's a possibility.
All right. Let's move on to Acrobatic Creek, Clearwater Beach Property Owners Association bulkhead replacement.
I have requested some additional information in order to complete that application, which I haven't seen yet.
What'd you ask for?
We needed, I think, some information from, as to why they were, here's a gentleman. Why the return was going to be extended. We needed, I think, clarification on who signed the application, because there was a new president, and a survey, maybe? I don't remember. Oh, the file is here, okay. Yeah, so, yeah.
Red one.
Big red one?
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jim. How are you?
Okay.
Jim, were you able to address any concerns about missing information? Was there clarification to the points Diane brought up, or is this a new
I don't
development?
have any questions.
This is the letter,
Okay.
okay.
Well, Diane was mentioning she had some questions.
Yes,
for
I'd be
you.
willing to, if I can, I'll be willing to answer them, sure.
Great.
And I can sign an initial since I'm president now. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm
yeah, the
starting
only
to
thing, you
think
know
it
what,
might be.
Jim, do you guys, when you guys do your annual meeting and you elect officers,
Yes,
do you guys do minutes or something?
absolutely.
Come in and document that you truly are a representative from the Clearwater Association and not some imposter. some
I'll have those
poser.
minutes sent to you.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so basically, I think when we had first looked at this, the repair, it's 616.31 linear feet of bulkhead to be removed, and then rebuilt in kind with vinyl sheathing and green heart, and, you know, everything is as we always request it. There's another 34.64 linear feet of bulkhead adjacent to a rock jetty at the entrance to the inlet. So that would be steel, that would be repaired with steel bulkhead.
That's correct.
And then there's a 120-foot launching ramp. So for the most part, there wasn't a big problem with that, but this cover letter does say you are looking for a 10-year global permit to allow for replacement of all of the bulkheads, docks, floats, and pilings. And that's just something I...
Okay, we agreed that,
Yeah.
you know,
Okay,
so the one-year permit is sufficient.
okay. We didn't have an estimated cost of the project included with on the application. That was in this email over here.
Would you like that?
Yeah, yeah. You know where that's helpful, to tell you the truth, is following, the storms in the 1990s and early 200, et cetera, when we were applying for reimbursement from FEMA and
Yes.
SEMO. And, we would say, we need to replace it's a town structure, or, we need to replace a bulk, and we were clueless. So we look to this type of information to assist us in the future on what it costs to fix, repair, or
good idea.
maintain our infrastructure.
I'm into
Yeah.
transparency.
Okay.
So, for the entire project, which includes the main bulkhead, the north bulkhead, and the launch ramp, it's $498,160.
Okay.
The plumbing we're gonna do ourselves, and the electrical, we haven't gotten an estimate yet, but it's not a lot of electrical.
Okay.
A lot of money.
A lot of money,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it looks
It's
like,
all in place, thanks to Bridgehampton National.
yeah. It looks like this is not the application with the additional return. I think that might be the Lionhead side. So this is in existence here. It's all in existence. It's just repair and replace as it is. So that's really all we needed. And I think we were looking at the survey, which was revised in 2010, but I think that is subsequent to their last bulkhead application, so you could consider it the as-built, even though it's
Yeah, I think
later. But it's there, so, yeah. Okay. So with that information and the stuff that was provided here in the file, I don't have a problem approving an application for the bulkhead repair and the launching ramp for Clearwater.
I had reviewed the application previously, and I found it, to be reasonable. I mean, I was concerned about applying for the 10-year thing as well, so
Okay.
Yeah.
you guys are just gonna do it every
We're good
year,
with
it
the
seems
1 year,
good to see
yeah.
it every year, and make sure nothing's changing. So with that in mind, I'm okay with it, too.
So we have a motion, right, from Diane?
One
I'd
quick
be seconding
question,
that
though.
motion, yes.
On the launching ramp, there's IPE top cap deck.
Okay.
Okay, that's treated material?
No.
No?
That's
Okay, I'm just
EPA.
questioning.
It's a tropical hardwood.
It's a tropical hardwood. Okay, just checking.
Hardwood.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Jump down.
Thank you.
Yes,
Any
so,
other questions?
do I need to reiterate exactly what we're approving, or
No.
everybody?
You've
okay.
made the motion, right? I'm seconding it if
I will
you,
make the motion with all standard conditions.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
will second the motion to
All in
accept.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
okay.
Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it, and I will get you the minutes to that meeting, and I'll re-sign or whatever I need to do.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Can I stop down tomorrow?
All right, no, I think the letter that was sent that said you are now the president,
Oh.
because you signed it, you
Yes,
signed the
I did.
application, so we're good. That's all I needed.
Okay,
Yeah.
then you're set. Okay.
Yeah, we're set.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jim. Nice night.
All right, Rose Can?
We just received the
Right.
as-built photos today, so I shared the committee.
I looked them, I mean, I did see them now, I looked through them, and I'd made a site visit there before, but I don't know, Diane, have you seen it? Do you have any other reservations about accepting the work,
Well,
closing it out?
This is Rosecan?
Yeah.
yeah,
I've been there since they finished it. I went
Right.
prior to the
Really
last
looks
meeting we had
nice.
even, and it does look nice.
yeah.
And I took my own pictures as well, and they're just similar to those.
Yeah,
Looking to close it out?
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it does look like they completed the bluff restoration as per
What
their
is this,
permit.
Core logs?
Core logs.
Okay.
Mhm. And, there's lots of nice planting there. The only thing, we could just maybe mention that maybe they should find another place to store their boats than underneath their stairway in the
Yeah.
grass. So, but, no, but it does look good. And the as-built survey is from September 17th, so it all seems to be in order.
All right, well, if you're okay with it, I'm going to make a motion that we close this out, because
Okay.
I did make a site visit personally, and I thought it was
Okay.
fine work, and it looks like all the conditions were met.
Yeah, I'd like to see more like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who did the work?
I can't remember.
I'm going to recuse myself from this
okay.
vote, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I have a quick question on an application like this. Is it against the town code to have irrigation in the berm? Or
It's-
something that we,
Bluff face?
It's not advisable.
No.
Okay? It's not advisable, because you know what happens is, the beach grass that you got there after year one, irrigation actually is a detriment. You know, you're getting the soils over wet, okay, which depending on the soil type, straight sand's not an issue, but if you've got sort of a siltier clay surface, you can end up with slides, okay? And not to mention, if you got an irrigation system running down the bluff, and you do get some movement on that bluff, the chances of it separating couplings and then washing out the bluff is pretty great. So as a rule, it's a good idea to just, if you're gonna do it like this one here, there are temporarily, the lawn irrigation heads, full circles were put on them, so they cast down the hill. Come springtime, the guy that does their irrigation most likely will either change out the heads, or adjust them so that it just blows back into the yard. You don't need to water that beach grass after the
It's-
first season.
pretty much drought tolerant?
It grows better. It'll grow a deeper root system if it's not watered.
Okay.
You don't want to spoil it and give it too much
Well,
water and have it
no,
become a weak.
Actually,
Yeah.
what happens with stuff like beach grass, if you add too much water to it, the plant will grow better. But a consequence to that is the plant will become susceptible to a couple different type of rust diseases, and the chances of it dying out as a result of those diseases are pretty high. You get the same thing with some of your wetland restorations.
All right. All right. The ZBA application from M. Ho at Bay Inlet Road. Somebody was supposed to go down and take a look at it. We sent an email asking for an extension to comment on it. Excuse me.
Where's
Anyone get
Bay-
down there?
Where's Bay Inlet?
Lionhead.
It's not my area.
I'm not recalling it.
Yeah, I don't really remember that either, honestly.
I do remember.
It's in there.
If I had offered to go down there, I'm sorry, but I didn't get to. I don't remember what happened with that. Has you already had the hearing or what?
We received the notice on the 27th, on the 26th for hearing on the 27th.
So was it
Would you be able to
postponed?
pop down there?
Did the ZBA
Oh,
postpone
I don't
it?
think we got a response,
Oh.
to be honest.
Right, did we ask them for more time or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
And what is the nature of the job? New construction?
To demolish an existing one-story residence and construct a new 3,008 square foot, two-story residence, swimming pool with deck and patio, sanitary system and driveway on a parcel of land containing wetlands and surface waters. They need a variance of 24 and 35 feet are required to allow residence and decking to be constructed. And they need a 4-foot variance on the sanitary system.
Doesn't sound like a lot.
146 feet from wetlands where 150 feet setback is required.
I wonder why they only need 150 feet when the other application needed 200.
Well, that's interesting.
Right.
I remember 150, when you said 200 before.
Yeah.
I remember that.
It said 200 for the other.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if it's just in a harbor protection overlay district maybe or something, it's different.
The reason is that in the along the inner harbors, Fremont Harbor, Acrobatic, Georgia Pond, Lake Montauk, there's a harbor protection overlay district, Hog Creek. But if you're facing on the outer, the outer bays, Gardner's Bay or Napeag Bay, there's no harbor protection overlay district out there. It's the inner harbors. In the in the harbor protection overlay district, the required septic system setback is 200 feet. Bear in mind, very, very few lots on any of our inner harbors can achieve a 200-foot wetland setback, just so you know. But that's the nominal setback. Everywhere else in the town, the septic system setback, to wetlands is 150 feet.
Interesting, okay.
I'm impressed, you guys noticed that, though. I think that's a very good catch. Very, very.
I remember the
you're on the
150.
ball, that's good.
What the heck?
This is Lionhead.
Maybe we can contact ZBA and see what happened with it.
That's what I was gonna suggest, rather than go and spin your wheels and look into it.
Yeah, so I'll have the ZBA day tomorrow.
Fingers do the walking.
Yeah, definitely check with them.
All right,
It's 26 Bay Inlet.
all right, thanks. All right, I'll see if, what happened with that at the last meeting, and,
It's worth a visit.
and if I have to go visit it, I'll go check it out.
Great, thanks, Tom.
26 Bay Inlet.
All right, Georgica and Ponds, One Association Road.
There is no activity on that. The house caretaker had reached out to me, actually, it was 2 months ago now, that he was gonna try and move this forward. I haven't heard from anybody, so I'll reach out to the applicant's agent, see if they wanna pursue this thing.
Okay, Birch, 31 Turbo.
This is one that we approved. Looks like they finally got their DEC and East Hampton Village, we're all squared away on. So I'm gonna call land use and see when they expect.
Is that the one we met with Lori? I think?
No,
That
no,
was
this is a different
Oh,
property.
okay. And Jimmy, what about 40, is it 43, when we met with the gentleman that didn't do too great of a job with the survey and Kerbal?
Is it the same one?
Yeah,
No.
geez, I wonder if that is done.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I'll go take a look.
Because we've got no notice of commencement or completion there, so
All right.
All right,
I'll reach out to both of those. That's good.
It's a hard one to forget, all those little dots that he put down with the different colors.
Oh, the nice drawing that?
Yeah, it was surveyed by Peter Max. He was third grade.
all right, Harbor Management.
The Harbor Management Committee will be focusing on the Deepwater Wind Farm over the next 2 months. We have made a commitment to officially weigh in on the project by the end of the year, and we have 2 more meetings scheduled with the Deepwater Wind Management team. The next meeting will take place on November 1st, and the topic of discussion will be the cost to our community and the cost to the ratepayer. In addition to that, we will be covering resiliency, and specifically resiliency of our energy grid. And hopefully one of our guest speakers will be someone who was just in the Caribbean on an official capacity surveying damage to the electrical grids down there, and will be able to share a firsthand perspective on how grids were affected by hurricanes and what may happen via simulation if a serious hurricane were to hit East Hampton, and how we may want to plan accordingly, and is the Deepwater Wind Farm the appropriate choice for a resilient system in East Hampton. So it should be a great meeting, and it is open to the public. I will be sending meeting notices out to the Harbor Management Committee, and depending on the interest, which has been strong, we may have to move it from the trustee office. So over the next few days, we will finalize the location for the meeting, but it will be on November 1st at 6 p.m. And it will either be at the trustee office, or it will be at another to-be-determined location. And then in December, we will have the presentation of environmental findings from Deepwater from their summer surveys and trawls and scientific research. So we're really looking forward to that one. That was discussed back in July. So 2 great meetings coming up.
And I want to thank you for all the work you're doing. And I just want to say one quick thing, because people on the street are saying, what's the trustee's position? We're all homeowners, we're all part of our community here. We're no different than the fishing community. We want to have this project work where it's going to be safe and not harm anybody. The transmission line seems to be our big concern, because it may or may not land on trustee land. But other than that, we're still in the discovery. We're just like our neighbors. We're asking questions. And I just want to, again, thank you, Rick, and for the amount of work that you've been putting into this, but we're kind of like the messenger for the community. I feel strongly about that. It's not our project. We are concerned. We have issues. And what you're doing is admirable. We're trying to get to the bottom of what makes sense.
Right,
So-
and
Thank
I
you,
would just
Brian.
add, like personally, I know there's still a lot of data to get, a lot of questions asked. It seems like we get an answer to a question and it just leads to more questions and, so that's difficult. But unless and until all those questions are answered, the way it has been presented does not have my support. Yeah.
No, a
Yeah.
lot of people feel that
Right,
way.
right.
And, it's a
Yeah.
funny thing because, your first reaction is, hey, this is green. But to what, degree are we going to embrace this? Not at the, detriment of our community, obviously not. So, yeah, it's green, but we don't want it to be gangrene.
Right.
You don't,
Wow, that was good.
you don't
Yeah.
want you don't want to destroy the environment to save the environment.
No, absolutely not.
Right,
No. So.
Yeah, it's a point I made before with sustainability stuff. If you're working towards renewability, I mean, you have to make sure it's not going to have negative impacts at the same time, because
Right.
if your negative impacts from the construction outweigh the positive impacts, then it's not really green.
Yep.
So, but I think we're doing a good job at discovering that and hearing from the community. I had was able to attend the last meeting at Scoville Hall, and I thought it was well done. A variety of people got to speak their voices, and it was good. I heard feedback and all different, from all different people in different ways and stuff, but I was curious what, you didn't really mention like Scoville Hall being a possibility for the next venue for the next meeting. Is it still? Do you feel like it was a good venue for it?
I thought it was an excellent venue. LTV had to work out a few bugs with regard to the audio, but I think having had the previous experience, that they would be able to do a great job there. And it was a very nice meeting hall, but it is also a church property, so I don't know what their interest is in having more public meetings.
It's also costly.
Okay,
That's a $500 room.
okay.
So,
Who
we'll have
paid
to
for
see.
that?
We did,
We did?
yeah.
Who's paying for
Board
it
vote
next
on
time?
that?
Yeah.
We did?
That's why we haven't chosen.
Maybe that's a meeting I wasn't at.
Probably.
Yeah,
Probably.
it might have been the one you missed.
Might be
Yeah.
better to just sit in that tight, cramped room. Close, doesn't cost us anything.
So we'll
First come, first served.
we'll explore other options and see what the interest is, regarding attendance.
We knew that.
But it's been a
we knew
great,
that meeting was going to be well attended.
that was a big meeting.
Yeah.
Well,
But it has been great to provide a voice for the community, and, it's been great to work with Jim on it. We've, I think, gotten a lot of good information out there to the public and been able to ask a lot of questions. And hopefully we'll see some good answers. We are due some strong, solid answers from Deepwater over the next two meetings.
Good. And yet it's good to have a grid expert there, because that was something people were asking
We
about
really
last
need to
time,
get
saying, hey, we
get
need
a
someone
little more of an expert
who has a really
opinion.
big grid, electrical grid background to answer some of those questions.
Okay.
It's a huge part that people forget about, the whole resiliency equation, but the grid is huge in that whole equation,
Yep.
You can get all the power you want, but if you don't have a stable grid to pump it into, where's it gonna go? How's it gonna get to people?
In the end, they're just another energy company, and you're going to have to stay on top of them to get
Yeah.
the right project.
Okay.
3 Mile, okay, Napeag Lazy Point, Curtis Geocues, did we talk about?
Cover those.
Okay.
We
We did
Did
Devon.
Devon.
3 Mile Harbor Marina, Vanderveer.
Yeah, I'm gonna go, we had the as-built survey finally, and what I'm gonna do tomorrow is go down there and compare the two, what's actually down there versus what was on the original survey prior to the permit, which I think is in the early 2000s, like 2006, I wanna say. So, I'll get back to you at our next meeting on my findings. I suspect it's going to be a few things that are going to come up. There's been a lot of activity, as far as I can see, as of a few weeks ago. So I'll get back to you. I've been waiting for the survey.
Also on Vanderveer, my office is in touch with an attorney for Don Tisdale's estate down in New Mexico, I guess it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we know that we have proof of that. So we're working on a joint release with regard to the barge. In other words, they'll release any joint releases so that whatever we authorize, there's no cross claims.
Has
it was-
that boat been, has that abandoned boat been taken out?
For all I know, it might have been. I mean, Vanderveer's called me a couple times, and I know they were getting Mike Bettini out there to
John
take
Whalen,
the.
supposedly.
The sailboat that was on the shoreline was removed.
That's different.
The Bonnet
That's not my
Popeye,
concern, 'cause
the
that
Bonnet
wasn't on
Popeye is still.
On the bottom?
Somewhat
Is it
floating or
floating? Yeah, it's
grounded.
Semi-floating.
But they were to take the osprey nest off. I don't know if that's happened yet.
Yeah, that-
Right.
But that's the issue is the.
Yeah, it was there as of a few days ago.
Anyhow,
It was there as of a few days ago.
Well, I'd like it to be there when we have the, I'd like to have the release before it gets removed.
Right.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
140 years.
I might as well tell you very quickly,
Andy
I
Before
think,
showing up.
without having Mr. Vanderveer's folder in front of me, what I'm looking at tomorrow is piling work and some dock work. So I'll get back to you on that.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Brian, it's
Full-
possible to take a few pictures while you're there?
Sure.
That'd be great, to get an updated look at what's going on.
Okay.
Have a hazmat suit? Foley Dock at 18 Three Mile Harbor Drive. Request to leave his pilings in place over the winter.
I recommend we say no. We've been through this with other people in Three Mile Harbor before. They want to tie heavy rope around them, saying that they won't be lifted by ice, et cetera, but the only things that are left in over winter are the marinas that have bubble systems.
Why is he
Yeah.
requesting this?
I think it's
Pretty substantial pilings.
yeah.
on the
Yeah.
dock.
It's pretty much the same thing as. the
labor, it's
marina.
money, but, you know,
No hardship that's different than any other person's hardship. It's not a different situation than most people
Could use
really, I mean,
smaller pilings.
Yeah.
he kind of picked the wrong size pilings for his dock, essentially, that's why he's in this mess.
if you do it for him, you're gonna have to do it for the next
Right,
guy.
yeah.
And
We
then,
wanna be
you know,
standardized.
if they break and then they're.
Wouldn't larger
they're
They're a
in the
pilings
water,
navigational
They're a navigational
hazard.
issue.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I don't
Wouldn't
want to.
larger pilings be less likely to lift?
well, that was what was said, but when you speak to people who've been working on that water, they're like, you'd be surprised what gets lifted and floats.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters,
Yeah.
pound for pound.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many
See, I
variables, like the
just
sediment down there, what the sediment.
Wonder how
like
much
it.
damage
Like
is
it.
done every
Everyone.
time you take them out and put them back. How much are you damaging the bottom?
I would suspect it's.
Just on the possibility of one being
What's
lifted.
been being done for generations.
Doesn't mean it always has
Yeah.
to be.
No, but I understand that there are, consequences to keeping them in.
Right. I'd-
So,
I'd reach out for some expert advice before I just change the policy then.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
not in
we
favor
could
of.
table it and speak to some marine contractors and,
Oh, they're all gonna be in favor of it.
Right, they're gonna wanna go, they wanna take
Yeah.
them out and put them back.
Oh, no, they're gonna want bigger
Well,
pilings in there
or-
so they won't
Well,
fall
or an
away.
Doesn't make money or
engineering
not.
Yeah.
concern might
yeah,
be a
but just,
better
just
choice.
remember though, if you're setting this precedent, okay, then it's gonna just change that whole
The whole dynamics of the
dynamic,
waterway.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Light filtration,
I mean, I'm not leaning in favor of
dock
letting
is
him keep
in.
them in or anything, I'm just curious.
No, I'm not in favor
Why
of
he wants
of
this to
taking them
happen.
out.
You are or you're not?
I'm in favor of them staying in,
Oh.
no, I'm in, excuse me, I'm in favor of them, being removed and then put back. Yeah,
Right,
I
of
don't
a
like to
traditional
keep them there
practice.
over the winter
Yeah.
time.
Not allowing his request to be
Correct.
excluded from the usual practices. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe for this year, we should go with the traditional approach and do more research on it, and then
Could do that.
see if there are other options in the future. But do more homework on it before it's considered.
yeah, that's okay.
And if he does take them out, he should probably put it in the right size next year.
Well, that's the thing, if he went with
Well, you go smaller so that it would be easier to
Easier.
take them out.
Right.
more
But I mean,
cost-effective. to
Whatever the
do
right
so.
size might be. But I understand, he already bought the pilings, you don't want to have to.
Well, he didn't buy them, he bought the house with the pilings.
Okay, so he didn't pick
Oh,
up
he's a
pilings
new owner?
himself.
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a new owner, he doesn't know, this is his first
That makes, okay.
winter.
All right. So, no.
All right.
Okay, so, out and research.
Table that bad boy.
Should we vote on that, though? I mean, should we bring it to a vote to say, do we want to,
It's just a letter.
we're just tabling it?
It's a letter, it's not an application. It's, I mean, the rules are the rules at this point,
Based
right?
on what we discussed, let the clerk address it.
Great,
I don't
sounds
think we
good.
need to vote to keep our rules in place.
You're absolutely right.
All right.
Okay, and I believe that brings us to administrative payment of the bills. Okay, Optimum, $165.72. East Hampton Marina, $297.24 for pump-out boat fuel. Staples, $7.60, $56.47, $96.52, plus $321.21 for a total of $481.80. East Hampton Star, $285, and Ed for LLC. North Fork Water Supply, $14.47. Seafood Shop, $438.88. Clams for the chowder. Skidmore's Sports and Styles Incorporated, $505.40 for T-shirts for the largest clam contest. Star Island Yacht Club, $332.13, pump-out boat fuel.
What was Skidmore?
That's
The
T-shirt.
T-shirts for the
Yep.
I'd
contest.
like to make a motion, we pay the bills.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
So the clam contest costs us about $1,200 usually. I mean, it's kind of it's probably the usual, I guess.
Is that all the, all the?
Is there, yeah, there are other costs.
What's that?
There were additional costs.
There's other stuff too, right?
Clam contest?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a couple.
we
But we
bought some
didn't go over
prizes.
the amount.
1,500. Right, yeah, sure.
Between 2 and 3 generally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there were so many vendors that always help us.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
Stewart's with the ice, just to mention one, you know, them.
Yeah, it's a long-standing community event. People are always
Yeah, and all the people,
happy to get
people
involved.
that gave us gifts.
Yeah.
Those prizes.
Yeah, thanks a lot to all the people who provided prizes for the clam contest.
Yeah.
Always nice to have the community, you know, get to have prizes from local businesses and be like,
Somebody
"Hey."
gave us an oil change, and this little boy won and said, "What do I do with this?" I said, "Just wait, man. Put it in your wallet, and in about 20 years, when an oil change is $3.50, you're gonna get it for nothing." He just looked at me like, "Yeah, right. Where's my clam rake? That's what I really want."
All right, let's move on to the minutes. July 10th, 2017.
I'll make a motion
Yes.
to approve as amended.
Yes.
I forward them to Laurie. Nothing that changed any content, just clerical stuff.
Brian, you okay?
I'm okay. Yeah,
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
July 24th.
Same thing.
Same
Make a
thing.
motion to approve with amendments.
Took a look at those. They seem fine.
Second?
I'll second it, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
August 14th.
Same thing. Motion to approve with amendments.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Financial report for the month ended September 30th. Anybody have a chance to look at them?
I had an opportunity to look at them. I had one question, and that is up top. I'm sure it's a simple answer, but I saw that, and it's a good thing. It shows 60,000 more this year than last year. What is that in checking 1001 Suffolk County National Bank?
We probably transferred it.
Yeah.
I do see there's a negative in the general money market, 40.
Okay, so that's not abnormal, just kind of juggling it around?
Oh, it's a good thing.
Yeah, so that being said, I did go through it, and I would make a motion that we accept this balance sheet.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do we generally make additional copies of these if people from the public want them?
Yeah.
We do, right? Okay. Just want to remind people to put in the audience, so if you ever want a copy of the trustee's balance sheet, you can come grab one at the meeting.
Renewal of certificate of deposit
Oh, okay.
due October 28th. Do we know which one it is, Lori?
It's just a regular money market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion to.
Second?
Yeah, we trying to renew those money market CDs? Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, report of the clerk, we've received the donation in memory of Billy Havens from Sandra Vorpal in the amount of $100. And that's about it tonight. Correspondence?
Thank you very much.
Peconic Estuary Program Habitat Restoration Plan meeting update. Do we load these onto onto our website
We have not,
or a link?
can.
We keep talking about doing that. We have to actually.
Yeah, we
If
really
made a
should be
links
doing it
chapter,
on
It would be great, because once
Yeah.
it's there.
Where would it go? I mean, it's still, you really got the whole new website
Yeah,
going.
let's see if I can get over there
You or-
tomorrow
or-
and get a few things going.
Are you going to be over there tomorrow at all, at the office?
Stop by the
All right.
office tomorrow.
And is it possible to get like weather and time
Yes.
on that,
Yes.
tides?
We talked about that,
Yeah.
Brian, that's a very good idea.
Can we
So
get a vacation countdown also?
We'll see if I can't get that.
Let's
in-
get
in
the
works.
tide and the time and the weather first, then we'll get that. Because actually what happens is people, go to that site for the weather, the tides, and then they can scroll down and get some current information about the trustees. I think it's really a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
get
could just
going.
get the
I'll give you an
NOAA
Okay.
info linked on there, maybe?
Yeah,
Probably linked to NOAA or something.
yeah, that'd be cool.
Okay, we have some emails from Peter Mendelman in reference to the 3 Mile Harbor jetty repairs and entrance dredging.
I happened to bump into Ed Michaels one day, and he said, he's been working on that as well. So the town is aware of it and moving forward on some repairs there.
Yeah, that's great. It'll really help with the safety of the channel with the shoaling that's taking place.
Absolutely.
And I think the initial question was who built them?
Well, that was.
Town. Ed said the town.
Peter and I met with Larry Cantwell about this, and Larry deftly turned us around and said, when you find out who owns them, you come back to me. And Peter must have had a sleepless night.
Found it though,
Went
found it
back-
in the Star.
Yeah, he went back and found the articles in the Star, the town built them in 1932.
Yeah,
31.
I've seen articles on when, I'd have to go back and find them, but the evidence is out there.
Yeah,
And I do think it was the town.
it was the town, definitely.
Town or county, but if it's
No,
a
it's
town,
definitely
I'd have
the
to go
town.
check.
And last time the entrance was dredged, the trustees did it for $102,000.
And the trustees paid for it?
The recent one? Really?
The last time it was done, that's what made that nice little area there by Maidstone that everybody likes to go to.
Right.
That's why,
When's the last time the county dredged it? Have they?
I don't know, I know they've
Major
done.
harbor.
Yeah, I know they've done other sections of 3 Mile Harbor. Remember the Sammy's Beach thing and the
Of
whole,
course, the cost of
They had to
construction on those
stop because of a
jetties.
dock or something in the way. And,
Vanderveers.
yeah.
There's a lot of sand out of that if you dredge the whole channel all the way down to the head. A lot of sand.
Jetties were built for $10,700.
Wow. How times have changed.
All right.
An email from, oh, God, excuse me, Nancy Pearson. Sampling performed by Stony Brook SUNY this is the cyanobacteria report. Fort Pond in Montauk, Sayre Pond in Southampton, Foxabog Pond in Sagaponack, and Cooper's Neck in Southampton, and East Hampton's clean.
When'd that come in?
September 29th. Conic Baykeeper. I'm not even sure what this is.
I'm fading.
I think we're done. Okay. Anybody have anything else?
I do. I'm done. It's real quick. I just had an opportunity to take a look at the, I think it is still a proposed town budget for next year, the trustees page, and they have finally at least elected our clerk as an elected official, but the rest of the board is still listed as part-time employees, not as elected officials. So therefore, I think like when elected, there is a certain 2% or something increase for elected officials, full-time employees, whatever. Part-time employees do not get that luxury. So the trustee salaries have been flatlined now
Well,
for
I
years.
had that conversation, and that was supposed to be fixed.
Yeah, and it just bothers me because I had the same conversations for years.
Well, you and I went and saw
Yeah.
Alex. And,
Yes, yep. And it's
the
just
supervisor,
ongoing.
yeah.
Yeah, but how they could be on that page and change one person to an elected position and forget the rest of us,
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Especially when we all run for trustee and then,
Yeah.
appoint, figure out who the
Right.
post's gonna be. It's not like somebody runs for clerk and,
Right, right,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's just something, hopefully.
I'll talk to them tomorrow.
Okay.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Do I have a motion?
What was the Lake Agawam thing?
Straight home.
Second?
Yeah, or whatever. All right.
Favor?
It's better.
Have a good night, everybody.